Chapter 637. He was so arrogant. Hearing this, Guan Qingqing's beautiful eyes narrowed. She flipped her jade hand and summoned the bronze cauldron. Smiling faintly, she said, "So, you're the so-called bounty killer?" Bounty killer? Wang Kai was startled. He really didn't know anything about the name she mentioned. He couldn't help but secretly send a voice transmission to ask about Cat Lord. Bounty killer. Wang Kai understood Guan Qingqing's meaning after hearing Lord Cat's explanation. Tianzhou was divided into 6 regions. They were East Upper Region, Underworld Tao Region, South Upper Region, Sky Marshal Region, North Upper Region, Tongtian Region, West Upper Region, and Pharmacist Region. The 9 Heavens region was in the middle. The 6th region was where the sky-reaching church was located. It was the most chaotic region in Tianzhou. There were experts from all kinds of forces in this region, traders from all kinds of forces, as well as notorious demons and villains in Tianzhou, would settle down in this region. The 6th region did not have a specific name. Everyone had their own opinions about it. Some people called the 6th domain the Sin Domain, while others called it the Chaotic Domain. Some even called the 6th region the Abandoned Region. Of course, the most common name was the Bounty Region. This was because most of the experts in the 6th region had committed heinous crimes and were ostracized by the other forces, as well as individual experts. As long as they were killed, their heads could be exchanged for a huge bounty. The heaven-reaching church was knocked out of the top 2,500th place and driven out of the realm of heaven-reaching. However, the sky-reaching church was not completely destroyed. Therefore, even if they hid in the 6th region, many of their old rivals and enemies would come to kill them. The Underworld Taoist sect is ranked 2nd among the 3,000 forces in Tianzhou. Since they're so powerful, why don't they just attack the 6th region and destroy the sky-reaching church? Why find some bounty killers? Wang Kai shrugged and sneered with a contemptuous expression. Whoosh! Guan Qingqing frowned and looked at Wang Kai strangely. She said in surprise, "It seems that you're not a bounty killer. How did you sneak into the sky-reaching church? To be able to see the divine sense on my Tao mark. Your cultivation is at least above the Heaven Monarch realm. Kid, the forces and rogue cultivators in the 6th domain are extremely chaotic. Even though the Acheron Sanctum is ranked 2nd, it can't interfere in the affairs of the 6th domain. Even the Empyrean Palace has to follow the rules," Cat Lord said through telepathy. Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. He could not help but wave his fan as he transmitted his voice with a smile. If that's the case, there are still experts in the 6th region that the Empyrean Palace and the Netherworld Ritual Ground are wary of. In response to this, Cat Lord remained silent. He did not refute or admit to it. From this, it could be seen that Cat Lord was also very unwilling to talk about this matter. However, such a situation made Wang Kai even more curious. How strong was the expert who couldn't even speak? What kind of realm is the Heavenly Monarch realm? Wang Kai shrugged and asked casually. Swoosh! As soon as these words came out, it immediately caused Guan Qingqing's beautiful eyes to be stunned. She stared blankly at Wang Kai. After a long while, she pursed her lips and said in shock, "You actually don't know the Sky Monarch realm? Haha, what is there to be surprised about? Bencheo's cultivation is too high. He has been cultivating for hundreds of millions of years. There are some things that I can't remember clearly." Wang Kai waved his hand and pretended to be experienced. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." In response, Guan Qingqing did not hide her disdainful sneer. She flipped the bronze cauldron into the sky and waved her hands. Waves of powerful aura swept out. Buzz! It was just an aura, but it made Wang Kai frown. He felt that his body was about to collapse from the pressure. Tao intent. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes. This aura was exactly the same as the Tao intent that he had displayed before. "You are not a Heaven Monarch realm expert. Tell me, how did you see through the Tao Mark's divine sense?" Guan Qingqing frowned and scolded angrily. It was just a casual release of a trace of Tao intent, but it was already hard for Wang Kai to bear. Such a scene immediately made Guan Qingqing even more puzzled. Are you an idiot? Which forces spiritual lady, saintess, and goddess do not have divine sense on their Tao marks? Do you still need Ben Shao to answer such a simple question? Even if this young master is extremely talented, shocking both ancient and modern times, I will not answer every question. Wang Kai frowned and snorted disdainfully. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Swoosh. As soon as these words came out, Guan Qingqing's breath stopped. She could not help but withdraw the Tao intent that she had released. Indeed, any force's spiritual lady would be protected by the master's divine sense. Wang Kai's words were not wrong. However, then how did you find out that my Tao mark had divine sense? Guan Qingqing pursed her red lips and asked in a delicate voice. Without the pressure of the Tao insight, Wang Kai instantly felt his entire body lighten, and when he heard this, he was even more speechless in his heart. If he knew earlier that this spirit maiden was so formidable, then he wouldn't have rashly come here no matter what. To be able to cultivate to the level of Tao intent proved that Guan Qingqing had already cultivated the fifth heavenly Tao technique. The fifth Tao technique was something that only experts above the heavenly king realm could cultivate. A spiritual lady was ranked above the heavenly king realm. Then what about the saintess? What about the goddess? If he really went, wouldn't he be asking for trouble? Thinking of this, Wang Kai immediately dispelled the idea of going to the saintess peak. He stared at Guan Qingqing in front of him and thought for a while before saying, "You are really an idiot. Ben Shao just casually said it and casually tested you. You took the bait yourself. Who can you blame for this? At the end of the day, it's Ben Shao who is too smart and you are too stupid. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Casually tested. Casually said it. Swoosh. Guan Qingqing immediately clenched her teeth when she heard these words. She had been so righteous before, but now she was quibbling. It doesn't matter if you don't say it. When I capture you and bring you to the Saintess Peak, Sister Yunxi will have a way to make you talk. Swoosh. As soon as Guan Qingqing finished speaking, she flipped her jade-like hand, causing the copper cauldron to suddenly expand. Then it fell directly and trapped Wang Kai inside. Along the way, there was the suppression of Tao intent, causing Wang Kai to be unable to move at all. He could only helplessly watch the copper cauldron fall with a face full of helplessness. This time I've really bragged. Big stupid cat, damn you. Why didn't you tell Ben Shao about the spiritual lady's cultivation level earlier? This act of pretentiousness is broken. Wang Kai stood alone in the copper cauldron and looked at the pitch-black surroundings. He could not help but hold his forehead with his hand and sigh in a rather speechless manner. Chapter 638. Cat Lord was infuriated. He snorted unhappily. Brat, Cat Lord reminded you before you came. Moreover, didn't you say that you wanted to conquer them with your looks? What does it have to do with cultivation? In that case, it really didn't matter. At the end of the day, he had underestimated the so-called spiritual lady and saintess of the sky-reaching sect. The forces ranked below 2,500 had been driven to the barren mountains of the 6th region. It was true that a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Hee, this young master is only letting her taste some sweetness for the time being. When we reach the Saintess Peak, this young master will naturally display his supreme, domineering aura and charm the spiritual lady and saintess. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and smiled with an indifferent expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Regarding this, Cat Lord expressed his disdain and chose to ignore it. He remained silent and did not say a word. Little did he know that Wang Kai was speechless at this moment. He had never expected that a spiritual lady ranked 3rd would have a cultivation level higher than a heavenly king. All-breaking universal drill. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the all-breaking universal drill. 500 bragging points have been consumed. Buzz. Patter. As a golden iron rod appeared in Wang Kai's hand, he used the eye of truth to take a look. The corner of his mouth twitched violently. It was really a drill, but it looked like it was 1 foot long and 3 centimeters thick, but its appearance was similar to that of a heavenly king. It's really a top-grade system. The things it produces are also top-grade. Wang Kai muttered, his forehead full of black lines. He immediately waved his arm forward. Sister Yunshi, look, I've brought you a big bad guy. Crack. Buzzed off. Suddenly, just after the bronze cauldron was broken, Wang Kai's figure did not slow down. He held the diamond that was like a man's penis and bent his waist to deliver the spear to the face of a woman in a black dress. This woman was extremely beautiful, so beautiful that it was suffocating. Her features were picturesque, her appearance was like a fairy's, and her skin was whiter than snow. Especially her slender arms and slender legs, they emitted a gentle glow that seemed as if they could be broken by the slightest breeze. What was truly beautiful was her eyes. It was a pair of eyes full of wisdom, but also full of sadness. It was as if she had been living in pain all this time. Looking at it up close, Wang Kai's lips and her red lips were almost touching. Fortunately, the diamond drill in his hand had disappeared. Otherwise, it would have pierced the belly of the woman in the black dress. Miss, you seem to be in a bad mood. Did some hooligans bully you? Tell that to Ben Xiao. Ben Xiao has always been protective of women. What he hates the most is men bullying women. I'm a romantic and elegant young gentleman. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and chuckled softly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. As soon as he finished speaking, he leaned forward slightly and pouted his lips. He was about to kiss the woman in the black dress. Hooligan, lecher, bang, bang, wah. Suddenly, before Wang Kai could succeed, he heard 2 delicate cries. Immediately, his back and chest seemed to have suffered a heavy blow at the same time. He was directly pushed and sent flying high into the sky. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Plop! Wang Kai's body fell heavily to the ground. His eyes quickly scanned the surroundings. He raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He scolded sternly. Where are the hooligans? Come out quickly. Ben Xiao wants to enforce justice on behalf of beauty. However, in the attic, it was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Even Wang Kai felt extremely awkward. He couldn't help but rub his nose and smile as he looked at the 2 women in front of him. Seeing that they were looking at him with a look of disdain, he felt even more awkward. He had never imagined that this spiritual girl would be so fast. In less than a dozen breaths, she had already arrived at the Holy Maiden Peak. Furthermore, looking at the scenery outside and inside the attic, she had already reached the peak of the Holy Maiden Peak. Little Sister Qingqing, who is she? Why did you capture her and bring her here? Yunshi's eyes flashed, and a look of sadness flashed past. She spoke weakly and turned to sit on a chair by the window. That beautiful side profile, as well as that figure that could mesmerize tens of thousands of experts, looked so heart-wrenching at this moment. When a person's beauty reached a certain level, one could not help but admire it. Similarly, when a person's sadness created an atmosphere, one could not help but empathize with her. Even Wang Kai, who had never cultivated his state of mind, felt his heart skip a beat at this moment. It was as if a string had been touched. Big Sister Yunshi, this bastard's origin is unknown. I suspect that he is from some force or a bounty killer who secretly sneaked into the sky-reaching church. Guan Qingqing pursed her lips and said. As she spoke, she did not forget to glare fiercely at Wang Kai. Wang Kai curled the corner of his mouth when he saw her playful look. He did not bother to pay attention to her. At this moment, he was only thinking about how to escape. Oh, then just kill him. Why did you bring him here? She shook her head gently and said absent-mindedly. Seeing her looking out of the window in a daze, Wang Kai could not help but raise his eyebrows. He stood up and flashed to the front of the bed. He stretched his head and looked out. He asked in surprise, Heavens! Ben Xiao, what are you looking at? You are actually looking at a tortoise flying in the sky. What? A tortoise flying in the sky? Where is it? Show me. Get lost. Bang. Suddenly, before Wang Kai could react, Guan Qingqing's eyes lit up and she shouted with interest. She even pushed Wang Kai to the side without mercy. She also stretched her head out and looked out of the window. However, in the end, she did not see anything. Where is the tortoise flying? Big Sister Yunxi, do you see it? Guan Qingqing was stunned. She carefully scanned the surroundings, but did not find anything strange. Hearing this, Yunxi shook her head gently and said with a sigh, "You are just too silly. You have cultivated for more than 80 years, but you still have the temperament of a child. I have lived in this holy maiden peak for more than 100 years. Well, have I ever seen a tortoise flying?" Whoosh! As soon as these words came out, Guan Qingqing's pretty face immediately turned red. She immediately turned around and glared at Wang Kai. She gritted her teeth and scolded angrily. "Bastard! How dare you play tricks on me?" "Huh? Who played tricks on you? Who do you think you are? It is obviously you who are very stupid. Okay? Bin Shao has already said that you are a fool. Until now, you still do not believe him. There are only 3 people here, and only you believe him. What does this mean?" Wang Kai shrugged and said with a casual smile. However, Wang Kai became more and more surprised. Just now, he had intentionally rushed to her side, but she did not have any strange reaction. What exactly did this holy maiden Yunxi experience? She actually looked as if she was indifferent to everything. That sorrowful aura continued to surround her. Chapter 639. Guan Qingqing was so angry that she raised her slender arm and was about to reprimand him, but she was interrupted by Saintess Yunxi. "Qingqing, he is not a bounty killer, nor is he a spy planted in the sky-reaching church by other forces. He is a new disciple who just came from the mortal world today and was personally brought into the outer sanctum by Elder Juyin," Yunxi said softly. Her eyes were still looking out of the window at the clouds, as if she was indifferent to everything in the world. Looking at her feeble and sorrowful appearance and her seemingly know-it-all manner of speech, Wang Kaisen was a little surprised. He could only say that she was indeed the saintess of the sky-reaching church. Her knowledge was indeed accurate. Compared to this spiritual lady, she was many times better. How is this possible? He clearly said that I have divine thoughts in my Taoist mark. I don't know what kind of secret method he used to lift the Thousand Autumns King cauldron. Guan Qingqing suddenly pouted and stared at Wang Kai unwillingly. However, Guan Qingqing could not refute Saintess Yunxi's words. Or rather, she had completely believed that Wang Kai was not a person who would harm the sky-reaching church. In Guan Qingqing's view, even though Saintess Yunxi seemed to be indifferent to worldly affairs, she was very shrewd. Moreover, the news of the Saintess Peak was widely spread. Even though Saintess Yunxi did not go out of the Saintess Peak, she knew a lot of news about the outside world and the sky-reaching church. Of course, Wang Kai did not know these secrets. A person who seemed to be indifferent to everything had such ability. Saintess Yunxi, the man you like should be a playboy, right? He has been fooling around outside. In order to keep an eye on him, you have secretly planted a lot of spies everywhere, right? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and could not help but touch his nose and ask with a surprised expression. With a sad face and sad eyes, it was obvious that she was hurt by love. In addition to this know-it-all ability, Wang Kai's guess was not wrong. However, when Saintess Yunxi heard this, her body froze. Seeing this scene, Wang Kai's expression suddenly froze. He couldn't help but say in shock, "Damn, it really didn't work? Shut up, you bastard." Before Big Sister Yunxi started cultivating, she was engaged to a man in a mortal kingdom. However, before they were married, Elder Su Yun took a fancy to her and took her as his disciple. Now that over 100 years have passed, I'm afraid that mortal has already. As Guan Qingqing spoke, her eyes were filled with sorrow. Obviously, Guan Qingqing also felt sorry for Saintess Yunxi. There was a saying in the world that lovers would eventually find their way together. However, In the world of cultivation, there were not many who could truly be together. Aren't you the one who should shut up? You clearly said more than Ben Shao, but fortunately, you didn't get married. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a pity? No, damn. Why did Elder Suyin take a liking to you? Wang Kai frowned and asked with a worried expression. Swoosh. When Saintess Yunshi heard this, a cold light flashed in her eyes. She said in a rather cold tone, Qingqing didn't kill you directly because there are few disciples in the Sky Reaching School. However, I don't care about the life and death of the Sky Reaching School. Get out of the mountain quickly. Big Sister Yunshi is right. Get out of the mountain immediately. Seeing that you chose the Sky Reaching School, I will let you go. Also, Elder Su Yun took a fancy to Big Sister Yunshi's cultivation talent. Even if we don't kill a filthy bastard like you, you won't last long. Guan Qingqing also pursed her lips tightly and snorted in an unfriendly tone. When Wang Kai heard this, he immediately frowned and could not help but shrug. He pretended to look lonely and experienced as he shook his head and sighed. Alas, what is love in this world? It's simply a matter of life and death. As his voice faded, Wang Kai walked down the stairs with his lonely back and a melancholy aura spreading from him. What is love in this world? It's simply a matter of life and death. Saintess Yunshi was stunned. She could not help but look at Wang Kai's lonely back and suddenly said, Wait, do you know how to compose poems? It really works. Hearing this, Wang Kai's footsteps paused. His face was full of pride. He immediately turned around, shook his head sadly, and sighed. It's just a poem. I used to compose so many poems, but now... Sigh, let's not talk about it. I wonder if Saintess Yunshi has anything else to say? Qingqing, you can go back first. However, Saintess Yunshi did not say much. Instead, she looked at Guan Qingqing and directly asked her to leave. This situation caused Guan Qingqing's beautiful eyes to be stunned. Her delicate body stiffened as she looked at Saintess Yunshi and then at Wang Kai. What's going on? However, in the end, Guan Qingqing did not get a satisfactory answer. She could only lower her head and pout. She looked unhappy and wronged as she left. Looks like she wants to be alone with me. TSK. Ben Shao said earlier that with Ben Shao's literary talent and handsome appearance, he could easily win over any beautiful woman. Wang Kai still looked sad, but in his heart, he was very proud. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to grade 9 Heavenly Origin Stage. You're good at pretending. Your ability to adapt is also very good. I wonder what level your cultivation is at. Saintess Yunshi asked flatly. Whoosh. Hearing these words and seeing Saintess Yunshi's indifferent look, Wang Kai's face stiffened. He could no longer maintain his sad expression. What's going on? At the same time, Guan Qingqing was walking on a mountain path of Saintess Peak. She pursed her lips and kicked the stones with every step she took. What's wrong with Sister Yunshi? Why did she leave that bastard alone? Could it be that she has been lonely for too long and wants to... This. Guan Qingqing's face turned red as she thought about it. It was as if she was bleeding. Qingqing, when did you come to Saintess Peak? Suddenly, as a voice sounded, Guan Qingqing, who was so frightened that her mind was in a mess, exclaimed, Who? Ya Wang, holy son, you scared me. Guan Qingqing patted her chest and said with a pale face. At the foot of the mountain path, there was a handsome young man slowly walking up. The young man was wearing a white robe. He was handsome and had a strong body. He did look extraordinary. Behind his head, there was a golden halo of light that was shining brightly and rotating slowly. You haven't left Spiritual Maiden Peak for 3 years. Now that you are here, is it because you have successfully broken through to the next level? Congratulations. Yao Guang, Holy Sun, smiled and nodded. Chapter 640. Guan Qingqing's beautiful eyes narrowed. She clasped her hands behind her back, shook her head, and snorted proudly. Well, compared to you, I should be about the same. or even stronger. Do you want to have a fight? Whoosh. As soon as she said that, the wavering light saint's eyes flickered. He glanced at her indifferently and smiled faintly. It's not too late to fight when the sect leader fights. As soon as he finished speaking, the wavering light saint nodded gently and smiled. He leisurely stepped up the holy maiden peak. Seeing this, Guan Qingqing was extremely disdainful. She waved her small fist from behind and snorted coldly. At that time, I will make it difficult for you, Suddenly, Guan Qingqing was shocked. She just remembered that the holy maiden Yunxi was alone with Wang Kai in a room. Now, they might be doing something. If the wavering light saint met them, it did not matter whether Wang Kai lived or died. But the holy maiden Yunxi, thinking of this, Guan Qingqing hurriedly moved her feet and used all her strength to block the wavering light saint halfway up the mountain. Wait, you are not allowed to go up. Guan Qingqing opened her arms. Her pretty face was cold, and her eyes were full of determination. The wavering light saint frowned and looked at Guan Qingqing with some displeasure. He said faintly, "Why are you not allowing me to go up?" "No means no. What nonsense are you talking about? If you want to go up, you have to defeat me." Guan Qingqing's beautiful eyes were full of fighting spirit as she snorted coldly. In her heart, she cursed the wavering light saint countless times. Why couldn't he come at a better time? He just had to come when Yunxi was lonely for a long time and wanted to do something. Now, she had to block him here. Boring. The wavering light saint said faintly. He tapped his feet lightly, and his figure suddenly disappeared before Guan Qingqing's eyes. By the time Guan Qingqing came back to her senses, the Alcade Sage had already appeared halfway up the mountain. Furthermore, every step he took seemed to be equivalent to 100 steps. He was like an illusion and unpredictable. Coward. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? Whoosh. Guan Qingqing clenched her silver teeth and took out the copper cauldron. Then, she directly threw it at the wavering light saint. Guan Qingqing, you've gone too far. Suddenly, the Alcade Sage paused and turned around to block the attack. The golden halo behind his head spun rapidly and emitted a glaring light. Bang! Buzz, the copper cauldron was effortlessly blocked in midair by the Alcade Sage's palm strike. He couldn't even make the Alcade Saint take half a step back. Seeing this scene, Guan Qingqing frowned and couldn't help but purse her lips. She snorted inwardly. Looks like the Alcade Saint has made another breakthrough. Damn it. How am I supposed to stop him? Sister Yunxi, you have to hurry. Guan Qingqing, what do you want? Even if I have to fight with you sooner or later, before that, the Saint Peak and Spirit Maiden Peak have always minded their own business. What's more, Saintess Yunxi will become my Dao companion sooner or later. What are you trying to do by stopping me time and time again? The Alcade Saint said coldly. No matter how good his temper was, he was still infuriated by being stopped. However, Guan Qingqing was merciless. She immediately shouted angrily and flipped in the air. She raised her hand to summon the copper cauldron back and used all her cultivation to throw it out again. Buzz! The bronze cauldron flashed brightly, and waves of terrifying will of Dao that was above the pressure swept down. Qingqing, stop it! Bang! Ding dong! Before the Alcade Saint Sun could block it, a figure appeared in the air. The figure raised his hand and caught the copper cauldron. It was a young man in a blue robe. He had blue hair and blue eyes. His handsome appearance revealed a sense of gentleness and gave people a feeling of amiability. Big bastard Mo Kong, how dare you find fault with me? Seeing the blue-haired young man, Guan Qingqing was so angry that her body trembled. She clenched her teeth and raised her arm to point at Mo Kong Lingzi. Ha! I didn't expect junior brother Mo Kong to also have a breakthrough. Congratulations. The Alcade Saint squinted his eyes and smiled. In response, Mo Kong Lingzi turned around and cupped his fists. He smiled and said in a gentle tone, Senior brother, I'm sorry. Compared to senior brother, I'm still lacking. The Yao Guang Holy Son gently nodded as a response. Then he put his hands behind his back and walked 100 steps to the top of the mountain. Mo Kong, are you an idiot? Sister Yunxi is now. Aya, you bad thing. Guan Qingqing clenched her silver teeth and cursed in a manner that was exasperated at his failure to meet her expectations. Swoosh! As soon as she finished speaking, Guan Qingqing twisted her body and chased after him like the wind. Seeing this, Ma Konglingzi was startled. He frowned with some doubt, then hurriedly followed from behind. At first, he thought that there was a conflict between Guan Qingqing and the Alcade Saint. Now, it seemed that this was not the case. At the same time, in the pavilion on the peak, Wang Kai sat on a chair with his legs crossed. He smiled indifferently and said, "So, you want Bin Xiao to go to the romantic floor to see the lady boss and ask some questions?" He thought that Saintess Yunxi must have been fascinated by his literary talent, but in the end, she just wanted to use him to do things for her. What he wanted to do was to sneak into the romantic floor and find out some things from the lady boss. "Yes, I think that I'm well informed and no one in the Sky Reaching School can compare to me. However, compared to the lady boss of the romantic floor, I'm still lacking. There's one thing that only she knows." Saintess Yunxi leaned on the bed and looked at the clouds, her voice full of uncertainty. Seeing this, the corner of Wang Kai's mouth suddenly twitched. He couldn't help but shrug and say in a rather speechless manner, "Even you aren't sure if that lady boss can help you, whoosh." However, before Wang Kai could finish speaking, Saintess Yunxi interrupted him with a determined look in her eyes. "Whether there's hope or not, I have to try. I heard that the lady boss has always been fond of poems and songs. She takes extra care of those with literary talent. With your ability to act according to circumstances, it shouldn't be difficult for you to sneak into the romantic floor and be a waiter," Saintess Yunxi said with a sigh. Sneaking into the romantic floor and being a waiter? What the hell was that? Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He immediately stood up and waved his arm. He said proudly, "That's impossible. With this young master's literary talent and extraordinary appearance, if I want to do something, I'd rather be a boss. Moreover, why would Bin Xiao agree to it? Since you are so awesome, why don't you go yourself? You could be a maid who serves tea and water." Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. You have no choice, Saintess Yunxi said coldly. "No, he has a choice." Whoosh! Before Wang Kai could reply, an indifferent voice sounded in the attic. In an instant, the Alcade Saint walked into the attic. Chapter 641. Holy Sun Yao Wang, your cultivation has advanced to the middle level of Heavenly Lord. You don't need to report your arrival to the Holy Maiden Peak, right? Holy Maiden Yunxi slowly turned around and glanced at him with displeasure. Yao Guang Saint, middle grade Heavenly Lord? Could it be that the realm above the Heavenly King was the Heavenly Lord? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. The realms he knew were the Heavenly Soldier Realm, Heavenly General Realm, and Heavenly Origin Realm in the lower three heavens. Above the Heavenly Origin Realm was the middle three heavens, which was the so-called Heavenly King Realm. If the realm above the Heavenly King was the Heavenly Lord, then what realm would it be? Moreover, this Yao Guang Saint was a middle-grade Heavenly Lord. Didn't this mean that he was a 4th grade, 5th grade, or 6th grade Heavenly Lord? This was interesting. Haha. In the history of the Sky-Reaching sect, the Saint, Saintess, Divine Son, Divine Daughter, Spiritual Son, and Spiritual Daughter have all become cultivation companions after the sect leader battle. You and I whoosh. Shut your anus. Before the Alcade Sage could finish speaking, Wang Kai, who was at the side, couldn't bear to listen any longer. Black lines appeared on his forehead as he interrupted. "Who are you? There is no place for you here, and there is nothing for you to do here. Leave." The Alcade Saint frowned as a cold glint flashed in his eyes. As the Saint of the Sky-Reaching sect, he was interrupted by an unknown hothead when he was talking to his beloved Saintess. One could imagine how he felt. "Retreat, your grandpa. Retreat. What did you say just now? It's fine if the Saint, Saintess, Spiritual Son, and Spiritual Daughter want to become cultivation companions. But even the Divine Son and Divine Daughter want to become cultivation companions? F*CKU. How dare you not leave any of them to Ben Shao? How many heads did you bring with you today? Wang Kai scolded angrily with a dark face and blue veins on his forehead. It was simply too infuriating. It was fine if the spiritual daughter, Guan Qingqing, was not his. After all, that little girl was a little stupid. As for Saintess Yunxi, it was fine if she wasn't his. After all, this little girl's heart was filled with sorrow, and it would be difficult for her to calm down. In this world, no man would be willing to let the woman he liked think about another man all the time. The one who couldn't stand it the most was the goddess. The spirit lady and the holy maiden were already gone, and now, even the goddess was also gone. The purpose of coming here was to capture her heart. How could Wang Kai allow such a thing to happen? You want to become Tao companions with the goddess? Not only was the Alcade Saint stunned for a few seconds, but even the sorrowful Yunxi Saintess was stunned. He couldn't believe that an outer disciple who had just entered the sky-reaching school dared to say that he wanted to marry the goddess. And from the looks of it, he seemed to be in the right. It was as though the goddess was his woman. What? Can't I? I'm not afraid to tell you clearly. Listen carefully, kid. Ben Shao is the handsome young man who has destroyed the way of the heavens, had sex with the king of hell, and slept with the princess of the dragon tribe in the sea. People in the Jianghu call me the omnipotent young man. They're talking about me. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. The heavens had destroyed the way of the heavens, had sex with the king of hell, had sex with the princess of the dragon tribe in the sea. Omnipotent whoosh. The Alcade Saint's mouth twitched when he heard those words. He looked at Wang Kai in disbelief and opened his mouth. He didn't know what to say. He was really stunned by Wang Kai's bragging. Puffed. However, Saintess Yunxi, who was sitting by the window, covered her mouth and giggled. Although there was still sadness in her beautiful eyes, she looked beautiful when she giggled. She was so beautiful that it touched a string in Wang Kai's heart. No, Ben Shao has decided. I want the divine lady and the saintess. As for the spiritual lady, cough cough, you can have her if you like. Wang Kai came back to his senses and smiled as he touched his chin. Whoosh. Saintess Yunxi's face stiffened when she heard that. She glanced at Wang Kai indifferently and turned around to look out of the window again. Bastard, what did you say? I'm the spiritual lady. Whoever likes her can have her. Suddenly, before the Alcade Saint's son could get angry, an angry rebuke came from outside. Very quickly, a fragrant wind blew. The spiritual lady, Guan Qingqing, appeared in front of Wang Kai. She clenched her small fists and gritted her teeth as she said, I dare you to say that again. Whoosh. At the same time, the spiritual son, Mo Kong, also appeared in the pavilion. He looked at Wang Kai with amazement and a smile on his face. Apparently, he had heard what Wang Kai had said just now. For Guan Qingqing, who had always been arrogant in the sky-reaching sect, this was undoubtedly the biggest blow. Ben Shao was just joking. Who wouldn't like such an otherworldly beauty like spiritual Lady Qingqing? If it weren't for my lowly status, I would have rushed up and beaten you up. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and laughed dryly. He felt a chill in his heart. He didn't expect that the person in question would hear it. You still want to beat me up? Guan Qingqing stared at him with her beautiful eyes and waved her small fists. She wanted to hit Wang Kai. Sister, stop fooling around. Senior sister Yunxi, long time no see. Mo Kong suddenly interrupted. He looked at Wang Kai with admiration in his eyes, then turned to Saintess Yunxi, who was in front of the window, and cupped his fists to greet her. Today is really a good day. Spiritual sons, spiritual daughters, and holy sons are all gathered at Saintess Peak. If Su Ju and Xia Xinyan also come, wouldn't it be? Saintess Yunxi nodded her head, but she paused halfway through her words. On the side, Mo Kong Lingzi, spiritual lady Guan Qingqing, and holy son Yao Guang all looked outside the pavilion. I heard that junior sister Qingqing and junior brother Mo Kong have come out of seclusion. Senior brother is here to congratulate you. Whoosh! As a voice filled with coldness sounded, a red-robed young man appeared in the pavilion. The young man wore a silver mask on his face, and his eyes flickered with a demonic bloody light. It was full of ruthlessness. At his waist, there was a long sword without a scabbard. The blade was stained with blood, and there was even blood flowing from it. A pungent smell instantly filled the pavilion. Divine Son Suju. As soon as this person appeared, Holy Son Yao Guang, Saintess Yunxi, Makong Lingzi, and spiritual lady Guan Qingqing all frowned. Their eyes were filled with fear and disgust. TSK, who is this guy? His outfit and equipment are awesome. His clothes are already stained with blood. His long sword is dripping with blood. His whole body is stained with the smell of blood. At first glance, you can tell that he is a homicidal maniac. What a ruthless person. Wang Kai's eyebrows instantly twisted. His expression was rather disdainful as he coldly laughed. After his words fell, he shrugged his shoulders and crossed his legs. With an unfriendly gaze, he said, "Brat, have you obtained this young master's permission to act so pretentious?" Chapter 642. Swish. Suju's body froze when he heard this, and he coldly glanced at Wang Kai. He flipped his hand and waved his sword, slashing out a red sword beam through the air, heading straight for Wang Kai's heart. Not good. Saintess Yunxi looked worried. Although she was not familiar with Wang Kai was still useful to her. Unfortunately, it was already too late for him to stop it at this critical moment. Even if Guan Qingqing wanted to help, she wouldn't be able to come in time. Absolute rebound divine shield. Wang Kai's expression changed drastically, and he immediately urged his mind instructs in a second to shout. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the absolute rebound divine shield, consuming 500 bragging points. Buzz. Suddenly, just as Wang Kai was about to be cut in half by the blood-colored sword Qi, a golden light barrier appeared around his body. Clang! Crack! Whoosh, 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 the absolute reflection divine shield shattered under the slash of the sword aura, and the sword aura bounced back. Such a scene shocked Suju Divine Son so much that his pupils shrank. He hurriedly waved his sword to block. Although he successfully offset the sword Qi, he was also forced to retreat more than 10 steps. Who are you? Suju stabilized his body and stared at Wang Kai with killing intent. He tightly gripped his sword, and his heart was filled with fear. To be able to easily block the sword Qi and rebound it back several times stronger, such a cultivation was definitely not weaker than the heavenly monarch realm. Moreover, although the defensive circle Wang Kai had displayed had been shattered, his body was still very stable. This proved that Wang Kai definitely had some strength left. As for Suju Divine Son, he was able to shatter the sword Qi that was repelled back, so he also had some strength left. Regarding this, Suju Divine Son was naturally very clear. For a moment, he was also unable to grasp Wang Kai's true cultivation. Even if they fought and won in the end, it would definitely be a Pyrrhic victory. For Divine Son Suju, who was about to participate in the sect leader battle, he was naturally unwilling to do so. Little did she know that Wang Kai was even more speechless at this moment. Once the absolute rebound divine shield was used, it would definitely injure the enemy. But this time he failed. Looks like he didn't use his full strength in that attack. Even if the sword Qi that bounces back is a few times stronger, it can only match his full strength. Damn, no wonder they are from Tianzhou. Each one is stronger than the last. Wang Kai cursed in his heart, but on the surface, he maintained an inscrutable expression. Haha, Bin Xiao is just a passerby in the world of mortals. What is a mere name worth mentioning? Sigh, young man, for your own safety, it's best that you don't inquire about Bin Xiao's name. Otherwise, once you hear it, you'll be shattered into pieces. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. After he finished speaking, he turned around, walked to a chair, and sat down in an extremely languid manner. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've obtained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Such a scene immediately caused Divine Son Suju to frown. His eyes were filled with bewilderment. The palm that was holding the sword slightly shook a few times, but he still chose to give up on attacking from behind. Since Wang Kai dared to leave his back to him so easily, it proved that he had absolute confidence in dealing with his sudden attack. Just the act of turning around had already caused Divine Son Su Ju to look at Wang Kai even more highly. The fear in his heart also became even more intense. At the same time, Holy Son Yao Guang, Holy Maiden Yunxi, Makong Lingzi, and Guan Qingqing were also looking at Wang Kai with eyes full of bewilderment. They couldn't believe that he was actually so strong. The one who was most puzzled was Guan Qingqing. She had clearly been captured by him and brought to Holy Maiden Peak. She didn't even have the strength to resist. Now, she was actually so powerful. Could it be that he intentionally lost to her so that she could bring him to Holy Maiden Peak? This despicable and damned fellow. Guan Qingqing immediately clenched her teeth and secretly cursed Wang Kai in her heart. She completely thought that Wang Kai had lost to her on purpose. Little did they know that Wang Kai was just pretending to be tough and deliberately mystifying things. I just heard that you want to become Tao companions with the goddess. Is this true? Just as the space seemed to be oppressive, Divine Son Su Ju suddenly spoke, his eyes filled with coldness as he stared at Wang Kai. Hearing this, Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He pretended to be calm as he looked at Divine Son Su Ju. He gently nodded and said with a faint smile, "That's right. Ben Xiao has yearned for the heavenly school's goddess for a long time. Her gentleness, her beauty, and even her person, they were all born for Ben Xiao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've obtained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Her beauty was not fake, but her gentleness. How could he say it?" Such words immediately caused Divine Son Su Ju to be startled. The faces of Holy Son Yao Guang and the others also stiffened. Especially spiritual maiden Guan Qingqing, her red lips curled up. However, their expressions caused Wang Kai to raise his eyebrows. Could it be that she's not gentle at all? Is she a tigress? F***CK. But now that he had said it, it was impossible to take it back. Thinking of this, Wang Kai flicked his clothes and said with a faint smile, "It's normal that you don't understand her. Ben Xiao has been with her for thousands of nights. Her gentleness will naturally only be left for Ben Xiao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've obtained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Swish! Hearing this, Divine Son Su Ju's pupils constricted. He stared at Wang Kai for a long time before coldly saying, "Since that's the case, why don't you come with me to the God's Sun Peak? This son of God has something to discuss with my dear friend." "Brother, dear friend," the corner of Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard this. He casually glanced at Su Ju. Looking at his appearance, if he really went to the God's Sun Peak, there might be some trap waiting for him. There's no need. Ben Xiao has never liked to interact with people with strong killing intent. Well, to put it bluntly, Ben Xiao doesn't like you. You're not qualified. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders, his expression full of disdain as he sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've obtained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Not qualified. I don't like you. Swish. Hearing this, Divine Son Su Ju's gaze immediately turned sharp. His killing intent was not concealed in the slightest. However, in the end, he did not make a move. If he were to make a move against an expert of unknown cultivation level before the sect leader battle, it would definitely affect the outcome of the sect leader battle. Little did he know that Wang Kai's actions were just to be high profile. Since he was pretending to be awesome, he had to pretend to be more decent, arrogant, and lawless. The more it was like this, the more others feared you, the more they couldn't grasp you. If you come to the God Sun Peak as a guest, this Son of God has a way to help you and Goddess Ya Xinyan achieve a good thing. Of course, you need to agree to this Son of God's condition. As for what it is, let's talk about it when you come. Su Ju's gaze turned as he secretly transmitted a few words. Then, he suddenly turned around and stepped into the air. Spirit Child Peak, 47 Spirit Servants, Spirit Maiden Peak, 23 spirit servants, have all died under the sword of this Son of God. In this way, I would like to congratulate the two of you on successfully coming out of seclusion. Swish! As Suju's voice slowly sounded out, the expressions of Ma Konglingzi and Guan Qingqing changed greatly. Chapter 643. Sister Yunxi, I'll go back first, Guan Qingqing said with a pale face. Then, she turned around and left the Holy Maiden Peak in a hurry. Similarly, Ma Konglingzi's eyes were dark. He cupped his fists towards Yunxi Holy Maiden and Yao Wang Holy Son, then nodded towards Wang Kai and left in a hurry. Regarding the words spoken by Suju, the two of them were clearly extremely angry and worried. Hee. It seems that Suju is very dissatisfied with the breakthrough of the siblings. The Yao Wang Holy Son narrowed his eyes and smiled coldly. Brother and sister? Wang Kai was startled when he heard this. He couldn't help but rub his nose and feel speechless. He never thought that Guan Qingqing and Mo Kong were actually siblings. Didn't they say that the spirit sons and spirit daughters were going to become Tao companions? Could it be, are all the people of the Tianzhou so open-minded? Wang Kai grinned and said with a speechless expression, Swish! Hearing this, the Yao Wang Holy Son and Yunxi Holy Maiden naturally guessed what Wang Kai was thinking. It's true that the spirit sons and spirit daughters, holy sons and holy daughters, as well as the divine sons and spirit daughters, want to become Tao companions, but it's not inevitable. If brother has the idea, you can do it together with the spirit daughters. Yao Wang Holy Son, there's nothing else for you to do here. You should leave quickly. Before the Yao Wang Holy Son could finish his words, Yin Shi, who was by the window, interrupted him. She even mercilessly ordered him to leave on the spot. Such a situation caused the Yao Wang Holy Son's expression to stiffen. His eyes were full of affection as he looked at Yin Shi. He gently nodded and smiled. If you want this brother to go to the romantic floor, Yun Shi, you need to inform Elder Su Yun in advance. Of course, I can help you with this. Swish! As soon as these words were spoken, Wang Kai frowned. Just now, the Yao Wang Holy Son had the attitude of not allowing him to go to the romantic floor. Now, he was actually willing to help? What was he planning? At the same time, Yunxi Saintess was also very surprised. She could not help but turn around and look at the Yao Guang Saint in confusion. She said indifferently, What do you want? Obviously, Yunxi Saintess did not trust the Alcade Saint. Haha, Yunxi, don't misunderstand. Although Elder Su Yun is your master, you have always held a grudge against Elder Su Yun because of what happened in the mortal world. You have not contacted him for many years. In such a situation, even if you go and beg him, he might not agree, the Alcade Saint said with a soft laugh. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai couldn't help but grin. Wasn't this implying that he was helping him? His flirting skills weren't that great. No need. If you want to send him out of the sky reaching school, you don't need to inform Elder Su Yun. Yao Guang Holy Son, you can leave now. Saintess Yunxi shook her head and said indifferently. She looked at the clouds and mountains outside the window. Her tone was indisputable. Seeing this, the Yao Guang Holy Son was not angered. Instead, he gently smiled and turned to Wang Kai, clasping his fists and saying goodbye. TSK. It seems that Ben Shao is too awesome. He is so awesome that even the heavens and earth will pale in comparison. Wang Kai smacked his lips and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the first grade Heavenly King realm. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 4th grade. Host, Wang Kai profession, Heavenly Martial Artist realm. 1st grade Heavenly King Taoist technique. Heavenly Way superpowers. Luck deprivation skill. Great summoning skill equipment. Ever-changing fan heavenly power. 4th grade astral origin points. 0 physique. Invulnerable guardian beasts. None bragging points. 24400 experience. 080000 hearing the notification. Wang Kai's expression suddenly froze. His eyes were filled with pleasant surprise as he glanced at it. Then, he urged his mind to close it. Even though his experience had increased by another 100,000, Wang Kai was still incomparably happy. At the very least, the power of the heavens had reached the 4th level, and his cultivation had reached the Heavenly King realm. A Heavenly King stage powerhouse could be considered one of the top powerhouses in the inner sect. Hearing Wang Kai's boasting and seeing his deep joy, Holy Maiden Yunshi couldn't help but shake her head and laugh. Although I don't know what method you use to block Suju sword slash, your true cultivation should only be at the Sky Origin stage. Shua. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. It seemed that this Holy Maiden's information about him only stopped at the time before he went to the Spirit Maiden Peak. In the past, he was at the Sky Origin stage. Now, he was a Heavenly King. But even so, Wang Kai admitted that he was definitely not a match for Holy Maiden Yunshi. It was not impossible to defeat her, but he would have to pay a price. In Wang Kai's opinion, there was no need to do so. Heavenly Origin stage? Oh, then what realm is Ben Shao at now? Wang Kai shrugged and casually waved his hand. Wang. Suddenly, an extremely terrifying pressure swept out, accompanied by the Tao intent of the Heavenly Tao. Heavenly King stage? Holy Maiden Yunshi's beautiful eyes were stunned as she looked at Wang Kai in disbelief. He was already clear about the Tao intent. But this Heavenly King stage, what was going on? Could it be that he was really an expert who didn't lose to a Heavenly Monarch? I was already very surprised when you displayed your Tao intent in the outer sect. I didn't expect that your cultivation level is not only at the Heavenly Origin stage. Sai, it seems that I can't force you to help me this time. You can leave. Holy Maiden Yunshi shook her head and sighed. She weakly turned her head and laid on the windowsill, looking outside in a daze. Patter. Wang Kai flipped his hand and took out his folding fan. He held it in front of his chest and gently waved it. He said with a playful smile, Actually, if you want to make Ben Shao help you, you don't have to force him. You can use other methods. Other methods? Whoosh. Hearing this, Holy Maiden Yunshi was stunned. She couldn't help but turn around and stare at Wang Kai with her beautiful eyes. She asked softly, What do you want? Tao techniques or heavenly techniques? Tao techniques? Heavenly techniques? What's a heavenly techniques? Wang Kai was stunned. He had never heard of heavenly techniques since he came to Tianzhou. He knew about Tao techniques. You don't know about heavenly techniques? Then how did you get the 5th scroll of the heavenly Tao technique? Holy Maiden Yunshi's red lips parted slightly. She felt that Wang Kai was too unpredictable. He was very mysterious. Heavenly Tao technique. Right, Ben Shao still has 9 levels of the heavenly Tao technique. If you want, Ben Shao can give it to you and help you. However, you should think of a condition that will satisfy Ben Shao. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a playful smile. As for the heavenly techniques, Wang Kai didn't care at all. He just needed to inform the system later. The most important thing now was to pick up girls. Since he was already here, how could he come here for nothing? Was that in line with Wang Kai's character? Chapter 644. 9 Levels of the Heavenly Tao Technique. Upon hearing this, Saintess Yunshi's beautiful eyes flashed. She had thought that Wang Kai had only learned the 5th level of the Heavenly Tao Technique from somewhere. Now, she heard that he had mastered 9 levels. In the end, Saintess Yunshi was only a little surprised. Saintess Yunshi shook her head and sighed. The heavenly way is indeed very tempting, but what I want is not the way, nor a high cultivation level. As long as you agree to help me, you can name any conditions you want. Saintess Yunshi shook her head and sighed. Looking at her seemingly weak appearance, Wang Kai was speechless. Wasn't it just parting with her lover? Did she have to go to this extent? Moreover, from what Guan Qingqing had said, Saintess Yunshi and that ordinary man were not married. They were only engaged. Since they were not officially together, why did she have to think about him day and night? Ben Shao has always thought of himself as a Casanova. However, Ben Shao really can't understand your question. Moreover, The condition that Bin Xiao is about to name can indeed help you. However, whether you agree to it or not is another matter. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled casually. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Casanova? When Holy Daughter Yunxi heard Wang Kai's words, she shook her head and laughed involuntarily. Instead, she became interested in Wang Kai's offer to help her. What condition? Tell me about it. Saintess Yunxi asked curiously. Clatter. Wang Kai flipped his hand and opened the folding fan. He leaned back on the chair and crossed his legs. With a playful smile, he said, It's very simple. Accompany this young master. Whoosh. Before Wang Kai could finish speaking, Saintess Yunxi suddenly interrupted him. You want me? Saintess Yunxi's beautiful eyes narrowed. She said without any emotion on her face. You're so direct? Wang Kai was stunned when he heard this. He couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He gently waved his fan and said, This young master really wants you. As the saying goes, a person who is not romantic is a waste of youth. A man who doesn't enter a cave is not a gentleman. For a gentleman like this young master, how could he not have such thoughts? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. A gentleman. Was this something that a gentleman would say? Saintess Yunxi was disdainful. A hint of disgust appeared in her eyes. However, she was surprised by Wang Kai's honesty. But it was just a surprise. A frank man was indeed good, but if he used it in the wrong place, it would have negative effects. It's just a body. If you want it, I can give it to you. But you have to finish what I asked you to do first, Saintess Yunxi said, shaking her head. Damn, she actually agreed. Wang Kai suddenly frowned. What he was going to say just now was not to directly ask her to give up her body. But when she interrupted him, the result was very direct. Ahem, that was not what Bin Xiao wanted to say. Although that was Bin Xiao's ultimate goal, we have to follow Bin Xiao's script. You can't be so open. Bin Xiao has been cultivating for so long and has maintained his pure and innocent body. How can he be so easily taken advantage of by you? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a look of disdain, Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. I'm open. Saintess Yunxi was stunned when she heard this. She looked at Wang Kai in disbelief. She had never thought that a man could be so shameless. Pure and innocent? Pure and innocent? Taken advantage of. Saintess Yunxi was dumbfounded by all the words he had said. What was even more unbearable was the preamble. Regardless of what he wanted to say, didn't he mean the pleasure between a man and a woman? That's right. If you're not open, how can you directly ask to do that with Bin Xiao? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and said casually, Do that. Saintess Yunxi frowned and glanced at Wang Kai. She said softly, What do you want? Tell me. It's very simple. Accompany Bin Xiao to the romantic floor. Take the opportunity to show you Bin Xiao's position in the romantic floor. Haha, I'm not afraid to tell you that the real boss behind the romantic floor is Bin Xiao. Wang Kai said proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. The real boss behind the romantic floor. Yunxi was speechless when she heard this. Even though she rarely got angry, at this moment, she was really enraged by his boasting. I can't agree to this condition. If I could leave the sky-reaching school, I wouldn't ask you to go to the romantic floor. Change your condition, Saintess Yunxi said softly. Can't leave the sky-reaching school? Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. He secretly thought that it was fine to agree to her request. But if the matter was really done, what would he do if she regretted it? At that time, one would be a saintess and the other would be an outer disciple. One would be a heavenly monarch and the other would be a heavenly king. No matter what, it was impossible to get away with it. Thinking of this, Wang Kai had a plan. He waved his fan and smiled. Bin Xiao won't help you if he doesn't have absolute confidence. Absolute confidence. Whoosh. Hearing this, Saintess Yunxi's body stiffened. She naturally understood what Wang Kai meant. You suspect that I will go back on my words? Saintess Yunshi said in a low voice. It was as if she hated this word. Wang Kai was startled when he saw this. He didn't know what was wrong with her. Previously, she was still looking weak and sad, but now she was angry. No, Ben Xiao just wants to collect some interest because you are so beautiful. Well, even if you go back on your words, Ben Xiao won't lose anything. Wang Kai shrugged. His attitude was unquestionable. Buzz. Patter. Suddenly, Saintess Yunshi raised her hand and waved it. Under the attack of the will of the Wei, Wang Kai's body was swept out of the pavilion uncontrollably. He couldn't resist at all. I will only give you 3 days to think about it. If you agree, you can come to the Saintess Peak to find me. If you succeed, I won't let you down. Saintess Yunshi said indifferently. Hearing this, Wang Kai couldn't help but touch his nose. Now he somewhat believed her. Since she could do this, even if she gave him her body, she would be a corpse. What did she want to do? Boy, why don't you tell me what I want to know? What a good opportunity this is. Lord Cat transmitted his voice angrily. Wang Kai frowned when he heard this and said with a disdainful expression, Then wouldn't this young master be at a disadvantage? I just want to find out something. Don't forget that the heavenly reaching sect doesn't only have the spiritual maiden peak and the saintess peak. There is also the goddess peak. The goddess peak. Cat Elder's breath caught in his throat. Kid, you're not talking in your sleep, are you? Do you really want to go to the goddess peak? If he couldn't even deal with the spiritual maiden and the saintess, wouldn't he be courting death if he went to the goddess peak? Chapter 645. Patter. Wang Kai held the fan in his hand and gently patted his palm. He smiled casually and said, big stupid cat, you have been with Ben Xiao for so many years. Can't you see that the woman who is worthy of Ben Xiao is usually the most awesome? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Whoosh! Hearing this, Cat Lord was speechless. He could not understand what Wang Kai was afraid of. Maybe when he was in the 8 Barons, he was afraid of the safety of his family and friends. But now that he was in Tianzhou, there was nothing to be afraid of. Haha, to put it bluntly, only the most awesome goddess has the slightest bit of qualification for a woman worthy of this young master, using my manly charms. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders, his face full of arrogance, as he laughed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Leave Saintess Peak quickly. Whoosh! Before Cat Lord could get angry, Saintess Yunshi, who was in the loft, could not help but ask him to leave. Wang Kai was really too good at bragging. No one could stand the torture to their ears and mind. Did you see that? TSK. We have only been apart for a short while, and you are already throwing a tantrum with Ben Xiao. If I had known earlier, I would not have left Ben Xiao. Why were you bragging just now? Wang Kai curled his lips and said disdainfully. Soon after, he hurriedly ran down the Saintess Peak. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Slap. In the loft, Saintess Yunshi was so angry that her body trembled. She raised her hand and slammed it on the windowsill. Looking at Wang Kai, who was running down the mountain, she opened her red lips and said, Despicable guy, are all the people in the lower world so despicable? Even Saintess Yunshi, who usually didn't like to get angry, forgot about her sadness at this moment. She was furious with Wang Kai. Oof, look at Lord Cat. It's not that she can't bear a part with you. She just can't wait for you to leave Holy Maiden Peak. Also, she has the ability to act tough. If you act tough, you're just torturing her. Lord Cat sent a telepathic message in disdain. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai suddenly stopped in his tracks. He widened his eyes and said with a face full of disbelief, F***CK. Big stupid cat. When did you become so evil? How could he say such words? You haven't learned any of Ben Xiao's virtues all these years. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the second stage of the Heavenly King realm. Virtue. You have virtues too. Cat Grandpa was speechless. If it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to reveal his identity and had to leave Wang Kai immediately, he wouldn't have listened to Wang Kai's bragging. At the foot of Holy Maiden Peak, Wang Kai had just reached the mountain gate when he was stopped by a group of disciples in black robes. Moreover, these disciples had the word Tian on their robes. A small number of disciples also had the word Tong. The weakest were all inner disciples, while the rest were all core disciples. Senior brother, did you just come from the Holy Maiden's place? Whoosh! Just as Wang Kai thought that there would be a fierce battle, these disciples, regardless of whether they were inner or core disciples, took the initiative to greet him. Furthermore, their appearances were all respectful and reverent. It was as if they had met their biological father. Wang Kai felt a chill run down his spine when he saw this. That's right. Do you know Ben Xiao? Wang Kai frowned and asked with a surprised smile. Could it be that his name was so awesome that the core disciples were afraid of him? However, what they said next made Wang Kai instantly understand what was going on. No. Divine Son Su Ju and Holy Son Yao Guang both left a message. If they see a white-robed young man coming down, they must treat him well. That's right. Senior brother, are you thirsty now? Do you want to come to my cave for a cup of tea? 10,000 years old immortal tea. Scram, let senior brother come to my place. In my cave, there are countless treasures. It's many times better than that bullshit immortal tea. In an instant, under Wang Kai's dumbfounded gaze, those disciples actually started arguing with each other. Their goal was to beg him to be a guest in their cave. Cough, cough, Ben Xiao still has important matters to attend to. I'm not afraid to tell you that Goddess Ya Xinyan has already set up a banquet on the Goddess Peak and is waiting for Ben Xiao to come over. Goodbye. Wang Kai waved his hand and said impatiently, Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Goddess Ya Xinyan invited him to a banquet. Swoosh! Such words instantly stunned all the disciples. Looking at Wang Kai's leisurely back, they couldn't help but look at each other and swallow a mouthful of saliva. As expected of the person that the Son of God and the Holy Son have to treat well. This card is awesome. Sigh, with the Son of God and the Holy Son paving the way for him, I'm afraid those people at the foot of the Goddess Peak won't be able to stop him. How strange. Why doesn't Son of God Su Ju pursue Goddess Ya? I don't know, but I heard that Son of God Su Ju cultivates the Tao of slaughter. If he wants to cultivate to the peak, I'm afraid that even his closest kin will have to be killed. In that case, Goddess Ya might have been resisting Son of God Su Ju, right? Wang Kai, who was walking in the distance, heard their words and couldn't help but be curious. Since the Son of God and the Goddess were going to become Tao companions, then why would Son of God Su Ju say something to help him obtain the Goddess? Could it really be because this guy cultivates the Tao of slaughter? Or was there another reason? It can't be that he's not doing anything, right? Wang Kai rubbed his nose and said with a smile, Shua. At the same time, in the void, there were two figures standing side by side. It was the red-clothed son of God Su Ju and the holy son of Yao Guang. Junior brother Yao Guang. Who is this person? Do you know him? Son of God Su Ju stared at Wang Kai's back as he said, with an uncertain expression. On the side, the holy son of Yao Guang gently shook his head and said indifferently, I also want to know who he is. Unfortunately, when I went to the Holy Maiden Peak, he was already there, but what? Su Ju's eyes narrowed. The holy son of Yao Guang turned around and looked in the direction of the Spirit Maiden Peak. He said indifferently, but at that time, there was also the Spirit Maiden Guan Qingqing. She even stopped me from ascending the Holy Maiden Peak. Presumably, he brought her here. Spirit Maiden Peak. Spirit Maiden Guan Qingqing. Hearing this, Su Ju sneered and immediately turned around, heading straight for the Spirit Maiden Peak. Su Ju was still extremely fearful of Wang Kai, whose cultivation was unfathomable. He also cared a lot about him. Chapter 646. Goddess Peak. Wang Kai stopped in front of the mountain gate and looked at the desolate surroundings. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. This place was different from Spirit Maiden Peak and Holy Maiden Peak. There weren't many disciples guarding here. Wang Kai, who originally thought that he could still act tough, was speechless for a moment. Just now, those disciples of the Saintess Peak all said that there are many disciples guarding the Goddess Peak. Why don't I see any of them? Could it be that they knew that Ben Shao was coming and were so scared that they scattered like birds and beasts? Wang Kai frowned and shook his head helplessly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Hearing this, Cat Lord was about to go crazy. He thought that since there was no one here, Wang Kai would stop bragging. But who would have thought that even if there was no one here, he would still continue bragging? That must be the case. Blame it on Ben Shao for being too strong and too awesome. People say that the heavens can't cover one's eyes. In Ben Shao's eyes, the heavens are just the roof of his house. If he doesn't want it, can't he change it at any time? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Kid, Cat Lord doesn't care if you want to brag. But do you really want to go to the Goddess Peak and die? Don't you think it's strange that there are no disciples guarding here? Cat Lord said angrily through telepathy. Hearing this, Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. He gently fanned himself and walked up the mountain path leisurely. He smiled faintly and said, "Didn't Ben Shao just say that? Those disciples who were supposed to be guarding here are not here because they were scared by Ben Shao. Scared witless. That's enough to describe it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Courting death. He was really courting death. Hearing this, Lord Cat's breath caught in his throat. He didn't even have the mood to continue persuading him. He was completely blown away. From the Fan Prefecture to the immortal martial domain, from the immortal martial domain to the 8 Desolaces, and now, even to the Heaven Prefecture. Cat Grandpa really wanted to know how Wang Kai was so good at bragging. He actually had so many tricks up his sleeves. Who are you? I remember you said that as long as I'm alive, no one is allowed to step foot on Goddess Peak. Are you here to seek death? Whoosh! When Wang Kai was halfway up the mountain, he was stopped in his tracks by a voice filled with cold intent. Raising his head, he saw a young man sitting on top of a large rock. This young man had a thin and weak figure. He wore a black robe that was extremely sloppy. In particular, there was a scar that resembled a centipede on his face that should have been handsome. When one looked at it, one could not help but frown. Brother Scar, are you an underworld member of the Sky-Reaching Church? TSK. Your attire is not bad. Who doesn't have a few scars on their body? However, a mere scar is not enough to scare Ben Shao. I'm not afraid to tell you that there are more than 10,000 scars on Ben Shao's body. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Brother Scar? Underworld? More than 10,000 scars? Hearing these words, the young man with the scar was stunned. He looked at Wang Kai in a daze. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Brat, you're still bragging. Didn't you hear what he said? Those disciples who were supposed to guard Goddess Peak have already been chased away by this brat. With such strength. Whoosh! Before Lord Cat could finish his words, Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and interrupted him. He looked at the young man indifferently and smiled mockingly. Young man, you did well. When you knew that Ben Shao was coming, you purposely chased away those disciples who were like flies. Here, this is your reward. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Patter. Wang Kai raised his hand and a stone appeared in his palm. He then threw it at the young man with the scar. F***CK, brat, you're really courting death. Lord Cat, was furious when he saw this. However, he could not stop Wang Kai. No matter how strong a person was, he would not be able to face Wang Kai. Patter! Suddenly, before the stone could even reach the young man, it exploded into powder in midair. You're very interesting. I don't want to kill you. The scar you're talking about was left behind when I was chased by my enemies in the early years. I was only able to keep my life because Goddess Xia saved my life. I didn't remove the scar not because I'm pretending to be cruel, but because I want to keep it as a reminder that I haven't gotten my revenge. You want to go up the Goddess Peak? Without Goddess Xia's permission, I won't let you in. As soon as the scarred youth finished speaking, his figure instantly appeared in front of Wang Kai. He extended his hand and signaled for Wang Kai to descend the mountain. Another heavenly monarch. Wang Kai frowned when he saw this. He never thought that the person in front of him was also a disciple of the heavenly monarch realm. He had thought that no matter how strong he was, he would only be at the peak of the heavenly king stage. After all, the godchild Su Ju was only a heavenly monarch. If there was someone stronger than him, how could he be a godchild? What are you? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and asked with a surprised expression, "What son?" Such words immediately puzzled the scarred youth. He looked at Wang Kai in confusion and shook his head. "I don't know what you're talking about. Spirit child, holy son, godchild, they're all heavenly monarch realm experts. Ben Xiao is very strange. What are you? Do you need Ben Xiao to tell you such a simple question? For someone as talented as Ben Xiao, who had shocked both ancient and modern times, there were even more difficult questions to think about. How can I be in a mood to always answer such simple questions?" Wang Kai waved his hand in disdain. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. I'm only a core disciple and have stepped into the heavenly monarch realm for less than a day. Although I have surpassed the other core disciples, I am still far from the holy son of Spirit Child. You can leave the mountain." The scarred youth came to a realization and replied softly. Wang Kai didn't know how to continue when he heard Lin Dong's patient reply and the fact that Lin Dong didn't attack him. As the saying goes, one does not hit a smiling person. Since the other party was so modest, he could not go overboard, right? "What is your name?" "Ben Xiao admires people like you who are strong but modest. How about we be friends?" Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled with a sincere expression. "Be friends." The scarred youth was stunned. He looked at Wang Kai blankly and moved his lips. In the end, he rejected. "No need. You can leave the mountain." "Brother Scar, no matter what, Ben Xiao has to go to the Goddess Peak today. You treat him with respect, so Ben Xiao will naturally return the favor. However, if you insist on stopping me, then we can only fight." Wang Kai's face suddenly turned serious and stared at the scarred youth with a desire to fight. It could be said that after coming to Tianzhou, this person was the first person who could make Wang Kai want to fight to his heart's content. In an instant, his desire to fight was boiling. Chapter 647. A Battle? Hearing this, the scarred youth's eyes narrowed. He took a few steps back and said indifferently, "I can't see through your realm. If you're weaker than me, you can tell me your true realm. I will suppress my cultivation to the same level as you. If you are stronger than me, swish. Stronger than you, so what?" Wang Kai narrowed her eyes and asked with a surprised expression. "Naturally, you have to suppress it to the same level as me." The scarred youth said confidently, Since Ben Xiao is stronger than you, why do you have to suppress your realm and fight with you? Wouldn't it be better to just kill you?" Wang Kai frowned and said speechlessly. This scarred youth was quite interesting. He was a weirdo. "You probably won't. I have a good eye for people. Perhaps your cultivation is not as strong as mine. Otherwise, with the words you said at the beginning, you would have already made a move." The scarred youth could not help but grin. Good eye for people? The corner of Wang Kai's mouth twitched when she heard this. She could not help but narrow her eyes and look at the scarred youth. She shook her head and sighed. "Looks like Ben Xiao needs to teach you a lesson." "What do you mean?" the scarred youth asked in a daze. Wang. Suddenly, Wang Kai gently waved his fan, and the pressure that belonged to the Heavenly King stage immediately swept out. However, her realm was only at the first stage of the Heavenly King stage. Your cultivation is indeed not as high as mine. Looks like my guess is right. The scarred youth grinned. Wong. Following that, the scarred youth's aura was also suppressed to the first stage of the Heavenly King stage. He looked at Wong Kai with the same fighting spirit as he took out a large blade and said in a deep voice, "Let's fight." Wait, before the battle, Bin Xiao wants to explain something first. Actually, Bin Xiao's true cultivation is not only at the Heavenly King stage. It's hundreds of realms stronger than the Heavenly Monarch stage. You have to be careful. Wong Kai shrugged and said with a calm smile, "Congratulations to host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to host for successfully breaking through to the third stage of the Heavenly King stage." Wong. Whoosh. Haha. I like people like you who can brag so much. In an instant, the scarred young man laughed out loud. He immediately brandished his broadsword, leaned forward, and chopped down. Bin Xiao also admires simple-minded people like you. Wong. Wong Kai remained motionless as he waited for the saber to strike down. Then he casually raised his hand and said with a faint smile, "Myriad cuts. Patter, patter." Suddenly, the blade in the young man's hand was shattered into several pieces by Wong Kai's hand. This scene caused the young man to be stunned. Universal cleave. Whoosh. Just as the scarred young man regained his senses and retreated, he saw that Wong Kai's speed was dozens of times faster than his. Your realm, patter, bang. However, before the young man could finish his sentence, his body had already been sliced into pieces by Wong Kai. The pieces were wriggling on the ground. You're a third-level Heavenly King, not a first-level Heavenly King. The scarred young man's head swayed on the ground as he stared at Wong Kai with a face full of grief and indignation. He never would have thought that he would actually trick him. Bin Xiao already said before the fight that Bin Xiao's true realm is not as simple as the Heavenly King stage. If you don't believe me, then blame me. Also, in the future, don't think that you're a good judge of character. Bin Xiao admires you, so I let you suffer a little and learn from your mistakes. Wong Kai shrugged and said with a casual smile, "Swish." As soon as he finished speaking, Wong Kai stepped forward and integrated the scarred young man's body together. Maintain this posture for 2 hours, and you will be able to recover. Don't move, otherwise, you will only be able to live with your head separated from your body for the rest of your life. Wong Kai warned with a serious expression. Hearing this, the scarred young man was even angrier. He couldn't help but curse. "Bullshit. You were clearly bragging before. If you had said earlier that you were a third-level Heavenly King, how could I have fought with you as a first-level Heavenly King?" However, Wong Kai waved his hand and ignored him. He leisurely climbed up the goddess peak. "My name is Chu Yun Kwang. We will fight again in 2 hours. Of course, I hope you don't die in the hands of Goddess Xia." The scarred young man's shout came from behind, causing Wong Kai to frown. Die in the hands of Goddess Xia? Could she kill someone? Goddess Peak. Similar to the Holy Maiden Peak, there was a pavilion located at the peak of the mountain. The surrounding clouds were swirling and moving, giving off a feeling of a fairyland. Of course, if one looked into the distance, they would definitely have another thought. It was because the place where the Sky Reaching School was located was too barren and dilapidated. In the wilderness. "Here, is the water ready? Coming at it." When Wong Kai stepped into the pavilion, he heard a celestial voice in his ears. He looked in the direction of the voice and saw a room that was not closed. Steam was coming out of the room from time to time. The sound of water splashing could be heard continuously. "Is she taking a bath?" King frowned and his heart began to pound. He hurriedly scanned his surroundings. After confirming that there was no one around, he swallowed a mouthful of saliva and tiptoed toward the room with the open door. "Here, come and add the water. Why are you so slow?" When he heard the bewitching celestial voice once again, Wong Kai's breathing immediately turned heavy. His footsteps also quickened and became heavier. Hia, why are you breathing so heavily? Your footsteps aren't steady either. Have you forgotten the cultivation method I've taught you before? Ugh. Wang Kai held his breath when he heard the voice. His heart almost stopped beating, but it soon returned to normal. Since the goddess did not discover him, it proved that she did not use her spirit to spy on him. She was just relying on her hearing. From this, it could be seen how confident the goddess was. She was so confident that she did not believe that anyone would dare to enter her pavilion. Little did she know that this was indeed the case. Even if it was a divine son or an elder, they would have to inform the goddess peak in advance. In the entire sky-reaching school, there was only one person who dared to enter the goddess peak directly and enter the pavilion. Wang Kai was probably the only one who could do that. Here, come down after you add the water. The 9 reincarnation blood lotus is very useful for our cultivation. When Wang Kai entered the room, he saw a large wooden bucket in the center. Inside the wooden bucket was the back of a woman with wet black hair. Droplets of water dripped from her smooth and white back. As she raised her slender hand to stir the water, the outline of her chest could be seen. It was frightening. It was also frighteningly large. It was even more frighteningly white, skin whiter than snow and a peerless figure. I wonder how she looks like. Hee hee. Wang Kai licked his lips and thought to himself as he felt his throat go dry. While thinking, Wang Kai had already walked behind the woman. Chapter 648. Why are you still standing there like an idiot? Why don't you add some water and join us? Such a good medicinal effect, you can't waste it. Xia Xin Yin laughed softly. As she spoke, she raised her slender arm and played with the water splashes. Thump, 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 thump. After hearing this, Wang Kai's heart began to race. Why is your heart beating so fast? The first point of the cultivation method I taught you before was to focus on your state of mind. Have you forgotten? Whoosh! Following Xia Xinyan's scolding, she slowly stood up and turned around. However, before she could finish her sentence, she was stunned by the face of the man in front of her. Ugh! For a moment, Wang Kai was also stunned on the spot, his eyes involuntarily fixed on her body. How dare you not wear your clothes in broad daylight? Patter! The awkward scene was broken in an instant. Before Xia Xinyan could react, Wang Kai reached out his arm and pointed at her. Bastard! Who are you? Buzz! Rumble! Whoosh! At that instant, Xia Xinyan's figure stiffened as she collected her thoughts. Her gorgeous face was filled with an icy, murderous intent. Waves of terrifying Dao intent shattered the wooden bucket into pieces, causing the water to splatter everywhere. Even the entire pagoda was trembling. Wah! Wang Kai was caught off guard, as if he had received a heavy blow. His figure was sent flying out of the pagoda like a meteor and slammed onto the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Too beautiful. Simply too beautiful. That face, those eyes, that little mouth, that little nose, everything was exquisite to the point of perfection. Cough, cough. Wang Kai stood up with his hand on his chest, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth as he clicked his tongue in admiration. He was completely stunned by goddess Xia Xinyan's appearance and figure. In other words, the only person who could be compared to her was Jing Xian. Furthermore, Xia Xinyan had an extra otherworldly aura compared to Jing Xian. This was definitely due to her cultivation. Yeah, who are you? Why are you? Goddess. Thump. Walala. Suddenly, a delicate voice sounded out, causing Wang Kai's eyebrows to twitch. He turned around to take a look, only to see a girl in the prime of her youth in the distance. She was so frightened that she spilled the bucket of water in her hand onto the ground. In the end, he ran into the attic in a panic. TSK, the servant girl called here, is also quite pretty. It's a pity that I didn't see what was below. Big stupid cat, did you see it? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows slightly and said with a playful smile. However, Cat Lord did not respond. It could be said that ever since they entered Goddess Peak, Cat Lord had sealed off his divine sense to prevent Wang Kai from bragging. Even if Wang Kai wanted to communicate with him, it was impossible. Whoosh! Patter! Above the pavilion, the doors and windows suddenly exploded. An otherworldly figure stood in the air. At this moment, her beautiful face was filled with ice-cold, killing intent. She coldly looked down at Wang Kai. Her jade-like hands were clenched so tightly that they turned white. Her body had been seen by a strange man. Xia Xinyan could not tolerate this. She had cultivated for more than 100 years and had never been treated like this. Die Buzz! Xia Xinyan angrily shouted and waved her jade-like hands, intending to kill Wang Kai. However, before she could use her Dao Will, Wang Kai hurriedly waved her hands and shouted, "Sister, don't be angry. I'm a girl. I'm a girl. We're sisters. Why should a girl make things difficult for another girl?" Whoosh! As soon as these words came out, Xia Xinyan's beautiful eyes went blank. Her arms stiffened in the air as she stared blankly at Wang Kai. For a moment, she was unable to react. "I'm really a girl. I just look like a guy." Wang Kai frowned and looked at her with a confused expression. His expression was so sincere that it was terrifying. Xia Xinyan came back to her senses and stared at Wang Kai's throat. However, she did not find any Adam's apple. She could not help but release her divine sense to investigate. In the end, she did not find that Wang Kai was a man. "Who are you? Why did you barge into the goddess peak?" Xia Xinyan lowered her arm as her figure floated down from the sky. She stood in front of Wang Kai, her eyes filled with suspicion as she stared at him. Wang Kai secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He had just used his cultivation to retract his Adam's apple. That was how he got out of trouble. Fortunately, his aura and characteristics were hidden by the system. Otherwise, she would have definitely seen through his aura. "My name is Wang Gai Jing. Because I was born like a man and my voice is exactly the same as a man's, I was sent to the sky-reaching school to cultivate. My father gave me a man's name so that I could have a foothold in the sky-reaching school," Wang Kai said with a sorrowful expression. As he spoke, he wiped his face with his hands, just like a girl. If Cat Lord did not seal his senses, he would definitely be scared out of his wits when he saw Wang Kai's appearance. He could never imagine that the arrogant Wang Kai would pretend to be a girl. He could never imagine that the goddess of the sky-reaching school could not see through his disguise. Little did he know that Wang Kai, who had the system, could not see through his disguise no matter how strong he was, unless he took off his pants to take a look. However, even if Xia Xinyan was suspicious, she would not do such a thing. "Wang Gai Jing, why did you barge into the goddess peak?" Xia Xinyan narrowed her eyes and asked coldly. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes darkened. He sighed and said, "I admire you, sister. You're the goddess of the transcending heaven cult. You're very powerful. With your protection, who dares to bully me? I hope you can let me stay. In the future, I can take care of you." "Oh, sure. Then let's take a bath together." Xia Xinyan furrowed her eyebrows as she coldly glanced at Wang Kai. With a flip of her jade-like hand, she imprisoned Wang Kai. With a move of her body, she stepped into the loft. "Here, go and prepare." "Yes, goddess." Here bowed and stole a glance at Wang Kai. Then, she hurried to prepare. "This, goddess sister, I just said that my body is the same as a man's." Swoosh. Before Wang Kai could finish his words, he felt his body stiffen. He was suppressed by Xia Xinyan's will and could not move at all. He could not even speak. "Haha, it's okay. I will help you become a real woman." Xia Xinyan's eyes flashed with a cold light. Her voice was full of sarcasm. Swoosh. Seeing this, Wang Kai knew that the goddess did not completely trust him from the beginning. The way he pretended to trust her was completely toying with her. Becoming a real woman? Wouldn't that mean he had to be castrated? Damn, that scene. Wang Kai almost fainted when he thought about it. Was this goddess so terrifying? Chapter 649. Goddess, it's ready. Do you want to bathe now? Soon, the voice of the maid, "Here," came from outside the room. Along with it came the sound of water being poured into the tub. F***, she can't be serious, right? At this moment, Wang Kai couldn't say anything. He could only stare at Xia Xinyan with grief and indignation. He never would have thought that the goddess would play such a prank on others. Yes, here, come in and take off his clothes. Throw him into the tub and soak him with the 10,000-year poisonous toad and sky E9 flower snake, Xia Xinyan said indifferently. At the same time, she looked at Wang Kai with her beautiful eyes, which were filled with joy. As far as she was concerned, killing Wang Kai so easily was simply letting him off too easily. 10,000-year poisonous toad, sky E9 flower snake. Although he didn't know what kind of poison she was talking about, it was enough to make one's hair stand on end. Quickly remove the Tao, intent tendons, and bones in my body. Wang Kai hurriedly used his mind to communicate with the system. Host, to break the Tao intent of a 4th-grade heavenly monarch expert. With your current cultivation, it will cost you 1,000 bragging points. 1,000 points, swoosh. As the maidservant here blushed, her eyes secretly sizing up Wang Kai's body. She used her might to sweep Wang Kai up. Wang Kai was extremely anxious. He hurriedly used his mind to say, quickly break, splash. Walala. However, it was still too late. Before Wang Kai could finish his words, his body had already been thrown into the tub. His body couldn't move and could only be submerged in the water. At this moment, Wang Kai finally understood what the 10,000-year poisonous toad and sky E9 flower snake were. It was a yellow toad with a human head, which meant that the white dot was a toad. Its body was extremely smooth and shimmering with golden light. However, its body was secreting wisps of golden air. It must be extremely poisonous. At the side, there was a small snake covered with patterns. It curled its body in the water and opened its mouth to bite Wang Kai's shoulder. Hiss, croak, croak, rumble, crash. In an instant, the wooden barrel was blasted apart. The 10,000-year poison toad and the sky E9 flower snake appeared to have met their natural enemy as they hurriedly fled. When he looked at the heavenly E9 snake again, his teeth were shattered and his mouth was blasted open. The 10,000-year venom toad was in an even more miserable state. It didn't attack Wang Kai directly, yet it was poisoned by its own poison instead, and it hadn't even taken a few steps before its belly was turned up, and it was completely devoid of aura. The maidservant, Hier, widened her beautiful eyes when she saw this. She was extremely shocked as she looked at this scene. Even the blush on her pretty face instantly disappeared from fright. At this moment, she appeared extremely pale. Break it quickly. Whoosh. Wang Kai's expression changed when he saw Xia Xinyan's figure flash out. He was afraid that this woman would come up with some other vicious plan. He hurriedly used his mind to communicate with the system. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking the Tao suppression. 1,000 bragging points have been consumed. Buzz. When a restriction on Wang Kai's body disappeared, he immediately somersaulted and stood up. Looking at Xia Xinyan, who had floated out, he immediately put his hands on his waist and spat out in a stern voice. Bitch, even if you want to see Ben Xiao's unparalleled handsome body, just say so. Why do you need to use such a vicious move? Are you satisfied now? Look, come, Ben Xiao will shake for you. Let you see more clearly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Whoosh! As his voice faded, Wang Kai placed his hands on his waist and began to twist, causing little Wang Kai to sway in circles. Patter! Such a scene instantly caused Xia Xinyan's face to turn red. Her gaze was extremely flustered as she turned her body away, and she hurriedly turned her back. The maid here was so frightened that she cried out in alarm. She covered her face with her jade-like hands and squatted down in shame. Whether it was Xia Xinyan or her, they dared to swear that they had never met such a shameless and despicable man. He had no sense of shame at all. Little did they know that in Wang Kai's eyes, his life was about to be King lost. Why would he still have any sense of shame? Seeing that the goddess had turned her back and did not dare to make a move on him, Wang Kai immediately put up his guard and said sternly, CKU. I told you to look, and you don't dare to look. The more you don't want to look, the more Ben Xiao wants you to look. Whoosh! As he spoke, Wang Kai's body had already moved and appeared directly in front of Xia Xinyan. Bastard, you lecher! Die! Xia Xinyan saw this and angrily rebuked. She closed her eyes and raised her jade-like hands to slap Wang Kai. Absolute Rebound Divine Shield. Congratulations to the host for successfully obtaining the Absolute Rebound Divine Shield. 500 bragging points have been consumed. Buzz. Crack. Bang. Wah. Suddenly, the Divine Shield shattered and Xia Xinyan's body retreated a few steps. A mouthful of blood even spurted out from the corner of her mouth. As for Wang Kai, he was still unscathed. Even with my full strength, I still can't hurt Ben Shao, compared to that *T pretentious divine son. You should be much weaker. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and said with a mocking smile. Cough, cough. Xia Xinyan clutched her chest and steadied herself. After glancing coldly at Wang Kai, she immediately stepped into the air and left. Only now did Xia Xinyan realize that Wang Kai had been toying with her all this time. Even if he was caught, it was all an act. With such a cultivation, how could she have been captured by him? You want to run? Do you think you can run? If you dare to run, Ben Shao will kill this maid. Wang Kai sneered when he saw this. His body suddenly moved, and he directly captured the maid, who was squatting on the ground. Whoosh! Such a scene immediately caused Xia Xinyan's delicate body to stiffen. She stopped in midair and pursed her red lips. In the end, she floated away without saying a word. Although her back was facing Wang Kai, it was not difficult to imagine how bad her mood was at the moment. Divine Daughter, don't worry about me. I'm just a servant. Hurry up. Wah. Slap. However, before he could finish her words, Wang Kai slapped her buttocks. She immediately cried out in pain, and her face turned red as she began to sob. As the Divine Daughter's maid, although she was a servant, her status in the sky-reaching sect was higher than many of the core disciples. It could be said that she had never been treated like this before. Don't hurt him, Xia Xinyan shouted angrily. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai immediately raised his eyebrows. He immediately stepped behind Xia Xinyan and said with a mocking smile, Since I won't hurt her, I'll hurt you. Slap, slap. Slap, slap, slap. You deserve to die. Then, under Wang Kai's continuous slaps, Xia Xinyan's buttocks began to tremble. The anger in her heart became more and more intense. Ben Shao has died before. Unfortunately, Ben Shao's physique is too awesome. In the 9 heavens and 10 earths, in the 3,000 universe, he is the only one. Well, you just saw that the toad and the poisonous snake could not do anything to Ben Shao. You can imagine in your mind that if you and Ben Shao had a powerful physique. Hee, can you resist? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a playful smile, Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Chapter 650. You whoosh. Hearing those words, Xia Xinyan's eyes turned even colder. She turned around in anger and saw Wang Kai with his hands on his waist and hips swaying. Hurry up and put on your clothes. Xia Xinyan hurriedly turned around, her face flushed red as she scolded angrily. Until now, she still could not understand why a genius with such a high cultivation level would be so shameless. Wang Kai's level of the younger generation must be high above others and care a lot about his face. But this was not the case. Little did they know that in Wang Kai's opinion, if a gentleman could eat, not be oppressed by power, and not have his life controlled by others, he would rather be a gentleman. Unfortunately, this was the way of the world. Kind people are bullied. Kind horses are ridden. Why do you have to put it on? Didn't you want to see it? Now that you've stripped Ben Shao naked, you don't want to see it anymore? Do you think of the king? Do you think others have to do whatever you say? Wang Kai sneered with a disdainful expression. He immediately raised his hand and slapped down. Slap. You. Following a crisp sound, Xia Xinyan's body trembled from the slap. Her face was bloodshot and her red lips were tightly pursed. If looks could kill, The endless murderous intent in Xia Xianyan's eyes was enough to kill Wang Kai tens of thousands of times. Unfortunately, Xia Xianyan did not dare to run away or resist. She did not even dare to turn around. You what? Little girl, you dare to use a shameless man and a snake to mess with Ben Shao. If I don't teach you a lesson today, how can Ben Shao be the ruler of Tianzhou and a role model of all the young men and women? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a mocking smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Whoosh! As these words were spoken, Xia Xinyan's lovely body suddenly stiffened. Her face was filled with panic. For a moment, she was unable to make up her mind. How exactly was he going to deal with her? Wang Gaijing, don't go too far. This is the Goddess Peak. If you dare to disrespect me, there will be no place for you in the 6th region. Xia Xian Yin said angrily. There was no place for him in the 6th domain. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. He raised his hand and pressed it on her buttocks. Then he gave a hard pinch and sneered. The sky-reaching school has become a lowly force that everyone can bully in the 6th region. You still think that Ben Shao can't survive in the 6th region? Even if the sky-reaching school has the ability, Ben Shao won't be in the 6th region. Xia Xinyan could feel her buttocks changing shape in Wang Kai's hands. The numb feeling was so stimulating that she wanted to go crazy. However, she didn't know how to escape. She bit her red lips until they bled. Encountering such a fearless person like Wang Kai, whose cultivation was unfathomable, was really difficult to deal with. What? Aren't you awesome? How dare you threaten Ben Shao? TSK. Ben Shao's cultivation is superb. He can go anywhere in the 6th region. But what about the sky-reaching school? F*CK, they're already being bullied by the major forces in the 6th region. If you leave the 6th region, you will be played by countless men. Do you think Ben Shao is right? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a playful smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Hearing this, Xia Xianyan's eyes darkened. Her delicate body trembled slightly, as if she had accepted her fate. She bit her red lips, causing them to turn red. She could only endure Wang Kai's frivolous actions. Indeed, Wang Kai was right. No matter how strong and powerful the sky-reaching school was in the past, it was all in the past now. They could barely survive in the 6th region. If they were outside the 6th region, Xia Xinyan didn't want to imagine the consequences. "Goodbye, goddess. You must avenge me." Suddenly, the maid here took out a dagger and slashed it at her neck as she spoke. "Here, you can't, bastard. Ben Shao hasn't asked you to die yet. How dare you die?" Clank, bang, wah. Suddenly, under Wang Kai's palm, the dagger in He-Er's hand was directly shattered into pieces. Even her body was sent flying and fell to the ground, continuously vomiting blood. In this moment of desperation, Wang Kai had been caught off guard, and his true cultivation base had been completely exposed. 3rd grade Heavenly King Realm. Whoosh! Xia Xianyin glanced at Wang Kai in surprise. Then, with a tap of her foot, she appeared in front of him. "You are only a Heavenly King Realm cultivator. Then, the thing that blocked me just now must be a Heavenly King Realm cultivator. Also, your Heavenly King Realm cultivator has just used your Heavenly King Realm cultivator and was shattered by me. So, do you have any other Heavenly King Realm cultivators to protect themselves?" Xia Xinyan squinted her beautiful eyes and sneered coldly. Whoosh! Hearing this, Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He glared at her fiercely. If he didn't save her in a moment of desperation, he wouldn't have exposed his strength. In the end, he was too careless. He didn't expect her to be so loyal to Xia Xinyan that she would sacrifice herself to save her master. Wang Kai didn't have any scruples about teaching Xia Xinyan a lesson or even flirting with her. However, Wang Kai admitted that it was difficult for him to casually kill an innocent maidservant who was loyal to her master and had no enmity with him. Alas, it seems that this young master is too kind. I've been practicing for so long. but I don't even want to kill an ant. My mother told me that such a kind person would not be able to survive in the cultivation world. At first, I didn't believe it, but today it has been verified. Mother, you are right. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed again and again. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Whoosh! Hearing these words, Xia Xinyan immediately laughed coldly. She immediately lifted her delicate arm and pointed at the dead sky E9 flower snake and the 10,000-year poison toad's corpse in the distance. If an ant doesn't even want to hurt an ant, then what are they? Wang Gaijing, no matter what your goal is, you will die today, Xia Xinyan said coldly. Whoosh! Buzz, as soon as she finished speaking, Xia Xinyan's figure flashed. Using all of her cultivation, she appeared in front of Wang Kai in an instant. Then, a palm filled with terrifying Tao will slam down. Little girl, if Ben Shao can't teach you a lesson, how can I continue to brag? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and sneered in his heart. With a flick of his finger, a drop of essence blood merged into the ground. Then he allowed the palm to land on him. Bang! Plop! As Wang Kai's body exploded, Xia Xinyan's face was cold and indifferent. She said coldly, You are the first person to see my body and also the last. However, at the same time, under the ground, Wang Kai's blood essence burrowed into the pavilion like an earthworm. In a room that looked like a warehouse, Wang Kai's figure gradually appeared from the essence blood. You are still too inexperienced to play with Ben Shao. Next, it should be Ben Shao's turn to play with you, right? Hee hee. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and stretched his neck. He grinned with an evil expression. Chapter 651. Big Stupid Cat, come out quickly. Wang Kai frowned and said impatiently. However, there was still no response from Lord Cat. In order to prevent Wang Kai from bragging, Lord Cat was determined to seal himself off this time. Seeing this scene, Wang Kai was speechless. He immediately pinched his hair and released his cultivation. Suddenly, there was a force that repelled his palm. Kid, why are you looking for Lord Cat? Did you succeed? Or are you looking for Lord Cat to save your life? Lord Cat's exasperated voice came out instantly. Hearing this, Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain and said with a faint smile, What do you know? Ben Shao is just playing games with the goddess now. Also, quickly cast an illusion to change Ben Shao into, well, that's it. Buzz. Immediately, Wang Kai turned his hand and condensed the power of heaven. The appearance of the maid, her, appeared in front of him. Lord Cat was puzzled. He thought for a while and said, You want to transform into a woman's appearance. What do you want to do? Is she the goddess? No, she's just a maid of the goddess. I'll tell you the details later. Quickly transform. Well, you must be able to hide it from the Lord of Heaven. Can you do it? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows slightly and asked in a tone of disbelief. Hearing such words, Cat Lord was infuriated. Since he didn't believe it, why did he ask him for help? However, in order to find out the truth of the sky reaching church's fall, Lord Cat didn't care. It's not difficult. As long as you don't leave the Goddess Peak, you won't be discovered by the other experts of the sky reaching church. However, even if I use it carefully, I can only deceive the Heaven Monarch realm experts for 16 hours, Cat said after thinking for a while. 16 hours. Enough. Hearing this, Wang Kai immediately raised his eyebrows. His eyes were filled with ridicule as he smiled and said, Hurry up and use it. 16 hours is enough for Ben Shao to have a good time with her. I don't care what you want to do, as long as you can complete what I want to know. Cat Lord coldly snorted. Immediately, a wisp of white light penetrated Wang Kai's hair. In an instant, it spread and enveloped his entire body. Whoosh! By the time the white light dissipated, Wang Kai had turned back into a woman. She was exactly the same as that maid regardless of whether it was his aura, bone structure, or even his demeanor. He was simply like a person. He couldn't see any flaws at all. With a flip of his hand, Wang Kai condensed a mirror with his heavenly energy and spun it a few times. After sizing it up, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration, big dumb cat, you really do have some skills. However, compared to Ben Xiao, you're still a little lacking. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Seeing Wang Kai lift his skirt to look at himself in the mirror and hearing the woman's voice, Cat Lord couldn't help but snort coldly and seal off his perception. Clatter. Suddenly, before Wang Kai could react, the door of the warehouse was gently pushed open. Seeing this, Wang Kai's heart jumped. Just as he was wondering if Xia Xinyan had discovered him, he was stunned by the woman in front of him. Mate, you bang. When he saw the woman who looked exactly like her, she was momentarily stunned. When she finally regained her senses, before she could say anything, Wang Kai covered her mouth. Clatter. As the wooden door of the warehouse was gently closed by Wang Kai, he fainted in Wang Kai's arms due to her injuries. There was even a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. When Wang Kai saw this, he couldn't help but smack his lips and say speechlessly, "Who asked you to seek death for no reason? You're lucky that Ben Xiao's slap didn't kill you. Your injuries are too serious. Let me take care of the medicine." Before Wang Kai could put her down, Goddess Xia Xinyan's voice came from outside. His tone was filled with reproach and concern. From this, it could be seen that Goddess Xia Xinyan took good care of her. Otherwise, she wouldn't have stopped running after being threatened by him in the beginning. "I'm sorry. You can sleep for now. When you wake up, your injuries will have healed." Wang Kai shrugged and flicked a drop of essence blood into Heer's body. Then, he used the power of heaven to seal her spirit. Clatter. After finishing all of this, Wang Kai gently placed her on top of a box. He turned around and closed the wooden door of the warehouse, welcoming Goddess Xia Xinyan. "Spiritual medicine? You didn't find it, right? Don't worry. Go back and rest. I'll go get it," Xia Xinyan said with a gentle smile. She raised her soft hand and touched Wang Kai's face. This situation caused Wang Kai to have goosebumps all over his body. It was really disgusting. Even though the softness of her hand was good, he was now in the form of a woman. The way she touched him was no different from a couple. This bitch can't be it can't be. She's just showing concern. Wang Kai comforted himself in his heart. "Goddess, I've used up all the spiritual medicine. My injuries are not serious. I'll recover after some rest, star." Wang Kai imitated and bowed. In the end, he pretended to be injured and coughed heavily. Seeing this, Goddess Xia didn't have time to think. She immediately held Wang Kai in her arms and said softly, "It's okay. I'll use the power of heaven to heal your injuries." Buzz. Swoosh. As her words fell, before Wang Kai could react, his body was carried by Xia Xinyan and floated into a room. Looking at the simple room in front of him, he couldn't see the habits of a woman at all. This situation made Wang Kai even more confused. Is this Xia Xinyan really that? Remember, don't have any distracting thoughts. Take off your clothes and close your eyes to rest. As Wang Kai was supported by Xia Xinyan to the bed, a gentle voice entered his ears. F***K. Take off my clothes? Take them off again? This is an illusion. I'm still naked. Wang Kai was speechless. He had no choice but to do as he was told. However, just as he put his hands on his belt, a rustling sound came from behind him. This situation caused Wang Kai's gaze to harden. His throat gurgled as he involuntarily turned around. The scene he saw almost caused blood to spurt out from his nose. Wasn't Goddess Xia Xinyan also taking off her clothes at this moment? Moreover, she had taken off her undergarment. That undergarment was obviously a picture of a pair of mandarin ducks. The 2 points at the top and the snow-white side of her breast were enough to make one's blood boil. Chapter 652. F***CK. This be *TCH. Isn't she forcing Ben Xiao to commit a crime? How despicable. How can a gentleman like Ben Xiao be alone in a room with a woman? Wang Kai thought viciously in his heart. However, his gaze was fixed on her, unable to move away for a while. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. As the saying goes, see no evil, see no evil. However, he was unable to move his gaze away, which made him feel like he was going crazy. What are you looking at? Why aren't you turning around and taking off your clothes so that I can heal you? Xia Xinyan frowned slightly and glared at Wang Kai with a hint of reproach. Xia Xinyan felt uneasy under Wang Kai's gaze. It was a strange feeling, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. However, it was probably because he was too heavily injured. Thinking of this, Xia Xinyan didn't pay much attention to it. Seeing this, Wang Kai couldn't help but praise in his heart. He thought to himself, the big stupid cat is really something. Now that they were looking at each other at such a close distance, she didn't even notice any flaws. Goddess, why is your place red? Is it that bastard Wang Kai who did this to you? When Wang Kai saw her, he immediately reached out and hugged her in his arms. Hiss! That strange feeling made Wang Kai suck in a breath of cold air. Patter! Xia Xinyan's eyebrows furrowed even tighter. She raised her jade-like hand and slapped Wang Kai's hand to the side. She then put on her clothes, got off the bed, and took a few steps back. Here, do you still remember what I said to you when you entered the Goddess Peak? Whoosh! Xia Xinyan walked to the wall and took down a long sword that was hanging on the wall. She pulled the long sword out of its scabbard and gently stroked it with her slender fingers. It sounded like a casual sentence, but it caused Wang Kai to be a little dumbfounded. Not only did he put on his clothes, he also got out of bed, took out his sword, and asked about what happened in the past. What's the relationship between me and here? How would I know? He must have discovered something, right? Of course I remember. When I first came to Goddess Peak, Goddess you. Wah. Cough, cough. Bang. Wang Kai pretended to be sorrowful as he recounted his memories. In the end, he directly coughed out a mouthful of blood, closed his eyes, and fainted on the bed. Since he couldn't answer, he would just continue to act tough. With the big stupid cat's illusion, Xia Xinyan would not be able to see anything. As long as he did not reveal any fatal flaws, there was nothing to worry about. Sure enough, seeing Wang Kai fall onto the bed, Xia Xinyan's eyes flashed with anxiety. She hurriedly threw her sword on the table and quickly sat cross-legged on the bed. She placed her hand on Wang Kai's chest. It really was here. Just now, was she really worried about my injury there? That's why she did that. Xia Xinyan frowned. Her eyes were filled with guilt and self-blame. She immediately took off her clothes and channeled the power of the heavens into Wang Kai's body. This was not enough. Not only did Xia Xinyan take off her own clothes, but she also took off a few pieces of Wang Kai's clothes. Such a situation immediately caused Wang Kai to be speechless. Why'd she have to take off her clothes to heal me? Wasn't she forcing me to make a mistake? Everyone said that the goddess was as pure as ice and as pure as jade. But when the goddess went crazy, she was indeed evil. What would Xia Xinyan think if she were to know about this? Most likely, Wang Kai would be executed on the spot, right? Wang Kai, who was half squinting and secretly peeking, felt his heart beat faster. His throat was so dry that he could not hold it in. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. I'm not a man if I take it any longer. Whoosh. With such a thought, Wang Kai immediately opened his eyes. After swallowing a mouthful of saliva, he placed his demonic palm on her without giving her any chance to explain. Here you. Xia Xinyan was dumbfounded. She even forgot to resist. She could not figure out what was wrong with her today. Why was she acting so strange? Goddess, don't you think it's a bit too much for you to seduce me? Cough, cough, seduce your servant? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and said with a mocking smile. At this moment, Wang Kai's blood was boiling. Seduce you? Have you forgotten that the secret techniques we practice, whether it's healing or passing on skills, all require? What are you? Bang. Suddenly, without waiting for Xia Xinyan to finish speaking, Wang Kai activated the system, instantly dispelling the illusion, and began his evil deed. If he could endure such a situation, then wouldn't Wang Kai be sick in the head? However, When Wang Kai's true appearance was revealed, Xia Xinyan had already gone crazy. You bastard! Ah, is there any way to temporarily imprison her? Wang Kai, who was in the middle of a battle, did not let it get to his head. He was afraid that Xia Xinyan would suddenly attack, and he would definitely die again. Although he could be reborn after death, it was best to avoid that feeling. Host, forcibly imprison a heavenly monarch expert. With your current cultivation, it will cost you 2,000 bragging points. 2,000 bragging points. That's a lot. Wang Kai's expression froze when he heard the notification. His waist involuntarily came to a halt as he stared at Xia Xinyan, whose beautiful eyes were already glaring at him, filled with murderous intent, causing his heart to violently beat. 2,000 it is. Hurry up and imprison her. If you don't bleed when you're courting a girl, is it still courting a girl? Buzz. Following Wang Kai's command, a golden light floated out from Wang Kai's body and directly enveloped Xia Xinyan's entire body, immobilizing her. She could not even blink her eyes. Congratulations to host for successfully imprisoning a heavenly monarch expert. This imprisonment will last for 2 hours. Total cost, 2,000 bragging points. 2 hours, forget it. The corners of Wang Kai's mouth slightly twitched. Looking at that cold and beautiful face, he could not help but ruthlessly laugh. Little girl, you killed Bin Xiao once and harmed Bin Xiao once. Now it's time for Bin Xiao to regain his face, right? When the 2 hours were almost up, Wang Kai hurriedly put on his clothes. Looking at the still immobile Xia Xinyan on the bed, he calmly said, "You killed me once, and Bin Xiao regained his face once. Fair and square. No one owes the other anything." Logically speaking, Bin Xiao suffered the most. After all, not everyone can be reborn after death. Goodbye. Pata. As his words fell, Wang Kai quickly walked out of the room. After waving his hand to close the door, he immediately stepped into the air and madly rushed down the goddess peak. In truth, if it was possible, Wang Kai really wanted to stay and continue cough cough. However, if he stayed any longer, who knew what kind of revenge Xia Xinyan would take? Chapter 653. Goddess Peak, halfway up the mountain. Chu Yinquang slowly got up from the ground. He had just recovered from Wang Kai's living cleave. Moreover, he could not control every part of his body. It was as if his body would fall apart at any moment. However, Chu Yinquang knew that this was the aftereffect of being cut apart. He felt that his body would fall apart again. That despicable Wang Kai. I, Chu Yinquang, swear that I will get back at him. Chu Yinquang gritted his teeth and cursed. Chu Yinquang had treated his trust as an idiot. One could imagine how he felt. Get back at him? Get back at him? Bin Xiao was helping you. Don't treat this young master's kindness as a cabbage, okay? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a disdainful smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the rank 4 Heavenly King realm." Whoosh! Hearing this, Chu Yunquang suddenly turned his head and glared at the mountain path. There, Wang Kaizhong was leisurely walking down with a carefree expression. Nonsense. You clearly... Wait, what did you do on the Goddess Peak? Chu Yinquang suddenly paused and looked at the belt around Wang Kai's waist with a sharp gaze. However, he discovered that it was extremely sparse and was not tied tightly at all. Furthermore, Wang Kai's robes also appeared somewhat disheveled. It was as if he was in a hurry and did not put on his clothes properly. Seeing this, Chu Yunquang's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At the same time, he regretted falling into Wang Kai's trap and allowing him to ascend the Goddess Peak. Now, he did not know what he had done to the goddess. What else can Bin Xiao do? He just played with the goddess, took a bath together, rubbed each other's backs, and did some exercise on the bed. TSK, TSK, you don't know how much the goddess loves me. I can't stop. Wang Kai shook his head and smiled proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. What? You you actually did such a despicable thing to the goddess. Chu Yinquang was dumbfounded on the spot. He couldn't believe that his guess was actually true. What was even more unacceptable to him was Wang Kai's frank admission. Nonsense. How could it be a despicable thing? The goddess has long since fallen in love with Ben Xiao. It's just that Ben Xiao has always kept himself clean and didn't want to eat her. Wang Kai pursed his lips and said in a serious tone, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Whoosh! Hearing this, Chu Yinquang's thick eyebrows twisted. His eyes widened as he doubtfully said, "If that's the case, why did you do this to the goddess today?" "Nonsense. Isn't it simple? Of course, it's because she wanted to give herself to Ben Xiao." She cried to the heavens and wiped her tears. Ben Xiao really pitied her. Helpless, Ben Xiao could only grit his teeth and accept her. Wang Kai shrugged and said casually, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." "That's impossible. The goddess has never met a man before. Even if the son of God or son of God or son of God came to visit, the goddess has never received him. You bastard, Wang Gaijing, I swear that I will kill your entire family." Suddenly, before Chu Yunquang could finish his words, the goddess Xia Xinyan's monstrous anger came from the peak of the mountain. "Wang Gaijing?" Chu Yunquang was stunned when he heard this. He looked at the peak of the mountain and didn't know how to react. Could it be that there was another person who went up the goddess peak? However, at this moment, Wang Kai simply did not have the time to waste with Chu Yunquang. Hearing those earth-shattering shouts of killing intent, if he were to be caught, wouldn't his body be crushed to pieces? "Brother Chu, to tell you the truth, Wang Gaijing is my sister. She's now on the peak of the mountain, fighting with the goddess. The reason is that my sister doesn't want me to marry the goddess. Sai, I won't say much. I'll go hide first. I hope that Brother Chu can take care of my sister." Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Kai quickly ran down the mountain. His speed was comparable to a meteor. Wherever he passed, rocks flew and dust rose. Seeing this, Chu Yinquang was even more confused. Until now, he still couldn't figure out when his sister went up the mountain. No, since he can compete with the goddess, he must be very strong. It's reasonable that he can avoid my detection. Chu Yinquang's eyes narrowed, and he suddenly understood. "What are you talking about? Why don't you stop that bastard?" Suddenly, an ice-cold voice filled with anger rang out from behind him. It immediately caused Chu Yunquang's body to stiffen. He mechanically turned around and saw the ice-cold face of Xia Xinyan. For a moment, he was a bit dumbfounded. "Stop the bastard? Who? Wang Gaijing's brother? Your Highness, where is Miss Wang Gaijing now?" Brother Wang just said, "Wah, bang, crack, rumble." In an instant, Chu Yinquang was sent flying by a Xia Xinyan slap. He flew for the top of the mountain all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Wherever he passed, a deep trench was left in the ground. "Damn bastard, Wang Gaijing, if this goddess can't skin you and pull out your tendons." "Goddess, cough, cough, why did you injure?" "Wah." Before Xia Xinyan could finish her words, Chu Yinquang's voice filled with grief and anger sounded from the bottom of the mountain. Until now, Chu Yinquang still didn't know how he had offended the goddess. Xia Xinyan clenched her teeth. Blood dripped from her red lips. She stared coldly at the bottom of the mountain. Suddenly, she flipped her hand and took out a white jade token. "All disciples of the sky-piercing school, if you find a man named Wang Gaijing, you must capture him and bring him to the goddess peak. If anyone can do it, this goddess will agree to discuss Tao with him alone for a day." Whoosh! As Xia Xinyan's thought entered the jade token, her voice sounded from all the identity tokens owned by the disciples of the sky-piercing school. "God, who is Wang Gaijing? How did he offend Goddess Xia?" Goddess Xia, who has never met with men, is willing to discuss Tao with a man alone. Don't care about the reason. Quickly find Wang Gaijing. Damn it! Who is Wang Gaijing? Get out here! For a moment, the sky-piercing school was in chaos. no matter if it was the core disciples, the inner disciples, or the outer disciples. They all began a strict investigation in their respective areas. The degree of madness was unparalleled. Even the numerous elders had gathered together. Their faces were filled with doubt and worry as they began to ponder. The goddess didn't hesitate to propose such a condition just to capture a man named Wang Gaijing. What the hell happened? Chapter 654. At the same time, Wang Kai, who had already fled to the back mountain of the outer gate, was also shocked by the voice coming from the disciple token in his arms, discussing cultivation with the person who had successfully captured him alone for a day, so that everyone in the sky-reaching church would spare no effort to hunt him down. Just how confident was this goddess to have such charisma? Wang Kai couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. However, after thinking for a while, he realized that Xia Xinyan was the goddess of the sky-reaching church. She had never met with men before. Now that she had suddenly proposed such a condition, it was possible that all the people of the sky-reaching church would hunt him down. It doesn't matter, even if they all come to find Ben Xiao. Who is Wang Gaijing? Ben Xiao is Wang Kai, Uncle Wang, okay? This goddess is also stupid. Maybe Ben Xiao's previous actions were too fierce, so she became stupid. Alas, it's not a good thing to have a strong body. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed again and again. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. However, as soon as this thought came to his mind, he saw strands of brilliance coming out from the disciple token. Finally, his appearance appeared directly in front of his eyes. Whether it was the body or the facial features, they were exactly the same. F***CK. Is this possible? Seeing this, Wang Kai was dumbfounded. Previously, only the name Wang Gaijing was known, so it was not a big threat. But now, even his appearance was revealed. If he returned to the outer gate, or even any place in the sky-reaching church, wouldn't he be discovered? Big dumb cat, hurry up and come out. Transform this young master into an ordinary man. Wang Kai shrugged. He raised his hand, circulated the power of the heavens, and clasped it around his head. Buzz, bastard, aren't you the goddess peak? How did you break the illusion when you took on the appearance of a woman? Suddenly, the cat's exasperated voice resounded in Wang Kai's mind. His tone was full of anger. Encountering a weirdo like Wang Kai was truly unbearable. Yes, I'm out. The goddess has been successfully captured by Ben Xiao. As for your insignificant illusion, Ben Xiao can easily break it. Aren't you making a fuss over nothing? Ignorant, Wang Kai said with a disdainful smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. Ignorant, to be able to break it with just a puff of air. Hearing such words, the cat lord felt extremely aggrieved. He was annoyed and helpless. He could only suppress his anger and said in a deep voice, have you investigated the matter of the sky-reaching school falling out of the top 2,500? Not yet. Although Ben Xiao captured the goddess's heart with his manly appearance, I can't mention the taboo matter of investigating the sky-reaching school for the time being. Otherwise, won't she think that Ben Xiao captured her just to investigate matters? How can a man with an indomitable spirit like Ben Xiao do that? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a casual smile, congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience points and 100 bragging points. A man with an indomitable spirit. The cat lord despised Wang Kai in his heart. However, what Wang Kai said was reasonable. If he directly inquired about the information, it might have the opposite effect. Thinking of this, the cat lord was secretly satisfied. He didn't expect that Wang Kai could capture the goddess's heart. He said with a smile, then why do you want to change into the appearance of an ordinary man? Well, ahem, it's true that Ben Xiao captured the goddess's heart. However, he couldn't hold back and raped her. Now, she is chasing after Ben Xiao, whoosh. Before Wang Kai finished speaking, the cat lord had already recovered from his absent-minded state. He scolded angrily. Boy, Are you playing with the cat lord? Nonsense, what do you know? Capturing her heart is the first step. The second step is naturally to get her body. Be careful that both her heart and body are Bencheo's. Isn't it easy to get her completely? Wang Kai frowned and said proudly, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Hearing these words, the cat lord fell silent for a moment. After thinking about it repeatedly, he could only agree with Wang Kai's idea. Otherwise, what else could he do? Change into the appearance of an ordinary man? TSK, that's not like you. The cat lord sneered sarcastically. Wang Kai had always been a narcissist. Now, he actually took the initiative to ask to change into the appearance of an ordinary man. To be honest, the cat lord was now a little uncertain about Wang Kai. What do you know? Bencheo's current appearance is already very handsome. Even if you change into a handsome appearance, you can't surpass Bencheo's current appearance. Since that's the case, why don't you be an ordinary man and experience the life of an ordinary person? Wang Kai shrugged and said with a smile, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the level 5 Heavenly King realm." Swoosh! As soon as Wang Kai said that, Cat Lord suddenly realized that Wang Kai's request was just to boast and show off. "Young man, this is the last time that I will help you. Before you find out the news, don't look for me again," the Cat Lord said fiercely. He really couldn't stand Wang Kai's bragging. Buzz. Then, under the cover of a milky white light, Wang Kai's body and appearance changed in an instant. He was wearing the black robe of an outer disciple. His appearance was ordinary, and his body was of medium height. He was the kind that wouldn't be noticed in a crowd. His skin was a little yellowish and dark, like a villager in the mountains. It's just an illusion. As long as Benchao wants it, isn't it easy? Wang Kai shrugged and smiled disdainfully. As long as he bragged that he was the ancestor of illusion, he could get the illusion Dao skill at any time. And Wang Kai believed that it wouldn't be worse than the Cat Lord's. He didn't do that because he wanted to save some bragging points. After all, in Tianzhou, just suppressing a Lord of Heaven elite would cost him 2,000 bragging points. If he met someone of a higher level or summoned an elite to help him kill the enemy, he couldn't imagine how much he would have to spend. Since the Cat Lord's illusion was enough, and it was useless, Wang Kai was happy to save himself the trouble. Buzz! Wang Kai turned his hand and formed a mirror with the power of the heavens. He looked at the unfamiliar face in the mirror and couldn't help but shake his head in praise. Sigh. Even though he has become so ugly, Bencheo's temperament is still too good. He's too damn handsome. It's a sin for you to be so handsome. Do you understand? Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. If the Cat Lord heard such words, he would definitely faint from anger. He was narcissistic to the extreme. Chapter 655. The outer court was already in chaos. The degree of chaos was several times more ferocious than the inner court, core hall, and even the elder hall. There was only one reason, and that was the so-called Wang Kai well. They had all seen it. Wang Kai, who had dominated the outer court as soon as he joined the sky-reaching church and became the chief disciple. What should we do? Yu Xian and Han Luotian were sitting opposite each other in a room in the outer court courtyard. Hearing this, Han Luotian immediately rolled his eyes in annoyance and coldly snorted. What else can we do? With our cultivation, we are definitely not Wang Kai's match. It is impossible for us to obtain the opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion with the goddess. Yu Xian's brows tightly knitted together. He naturally understood this logic, but such a good opportunity was placed in front of him, yet he couldn't touch it. It was truly unbearable. Then according to you, we should inform the inner court or the core hall of this news. Yu Xian narrowed his eyes and said, "Patter." Han Luotian gently nodded his head and placed the teacup in his hand on the table. Only then did he coldly smile. That's right. Since we are unable to defeat Wang Kai, then we can only borrow the hands of others. Even if we cannot obtain the opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion with the goddess, we can still obtain some benefits from the inner court or the core hall. At the same time, we can get rid of Wang Kai, this obstacle. Why not? Yu Xian pursed his lips and smiled as he replied. After speaking, the two of them couldn't help but look at each other and laugh. Patter, what are you guys discussing? Count Ben Shaoin, okay? Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out, accompanied by the sound of the door being pushed open. Yu Xian and Han Luotian immediately stood up in fright and looked towards the door with pale faces. However, when they saw that the person who came was only an ordinary and unfamiliar disciple, they both secretly let out a sigh of relief. However, their anger grew even stronger. Bastard, who allowed you to barge in without permission? Do you want to die? Yu Xian's forehead was covered in cold sweat as he coldly reprimanded. At that moment, Han Luotian was quite frightened. That person's voice and tone were too similar to Wang Kai's. Why waste your breath on him? Just kill him, you trash who doesn't know the rules. Han Luotian scolded sternly. He immediately flipped his hand and slapped toward Wang Kai across the air. Seeing this, Wang Kai's expression was rather disdainful as he curled his lips. He casually waved his hand, and with a bang, the pressure of the palm print was directly pushed back. Whoplop! In an instant, Han Luotian was blown away as if he had suffered a heavy blow. He collided heavily with a pillar and vomited blood. Such a situation also caused Yu Xian to be extremely terrified. His eyes were wide open as he looked at Wang Kai in disbelief. He dryly swallowed a mouthful of saliva as he felt extremely sullen in his heart. Since when were there so many experts in the B school of the outer court? Wang Kai was already enough for them to suffer in Ding Courtyard. Now that they had been chased to the second courtyard, a similarly unfathomable disciple had appeared. How could they let the two overlords of the outer court continue to live? Cough, cough. Senior brother, spare me. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai and rashly angered senior brother. I hope that you will be magnanimous. Bang. However, before Han Luotian could finish speaking, he was once again kicked by Wang Kai across the air and flew up to the beam. Han Luotian, who was heavily injured and vomiting blood, lay on the beam. At this moment, his mood was extremely depressed and bitter. He was extremely sullen and terrified, so much so that he had to keep a low profile in the outer court in the future. He was afraid that another unfathomable disciple would appear. What should he do? Why are you showing off for no reason? Can't you stop for a while? Furthermore, is acting tough something that you can do? Is it high enough? Is your body hard enough? Wang Kai's expression was rather disdainful as he sneered coldly. He immediately crossed his legs and lay on his back on the chair. He had originally planned to go to the courtyard. After all, it was the worst courtyard and could indeed hide well. However, after thinking about it, he had just joined the Sky Reaching School. If he stayed there and his current identity was unclear, he would definitely be discovered once an elder came to investigate. Thinking of this, Wang Kai could only give up on the courtyard and choose to go to the B courtyard. It was neither the strongest nor the weakest. It was in the middle. It just so happened to be suitable. Sigh, if I go to the courtyard with Ben Shao's ability and the title of chief disciple, he will definitely be investigated first. Going to the courtyard is even worse. After all, I just came here and went there. In the end, it's because Ben Shao is too eye-catching that the goddess actually bent over and chased after him so urgently. Wang Kai shrugged and thought with a sigh in his heart. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. This senior brother, may I ask what is your name? Yu Xian carefully walked forward and bowed, cupping his fists and asking with a smile. Han Luotan, who was lying on the roof beam with blood at the corner of his mouth, also weakly cupped his fists and said in an extremely weak voice, I've been in the outer sect for many years and have never heard of an expert like senior brother in the B courtyard. I hope that senior brother can leave your name so that I can be more careful in the future and avoid offending senior brother. Whoosh! Seeing the two of them like this, Wang Kai immediately felt extreme disdain in his heart. Just a moment ago, they were still discussing how to frame him in the room. Now that they were no match for him, they began to grovel and beg for mercy. This kind of cultivator was destined to never amount to anything. My surname is Niu. My name is Zhetian. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a rather casual expression, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points." Niu, Zhetian, cough cough. Hearing this name, Han Luotian and Yu Xian were both dumbfounded. They could not believe that there was actually someone in this world who would give such a name. So is senior brother Niu. Zhetian, Niu Zhetian. Such a name is truly domineering. This one admires you. Yu Xian repeatedly cupped his fists and praised. Han Luotian's mouth also twitched as he weakly flattered. Senior brother Niu, good name, mighty to the extreme. You are the role model of my generation. Hearing such flattering words, Wang Kai felt extremely comfortable in his heart. Suddenly, he felt that he did not want to kill them. As long as there was no threat for the time being, staying and listening to their flattery was not a bad idea. Thinking of this, Wang Kai lightly nodded and said with an indifferent smile, "It's so. And, from today onwards, the two of you are Ben Xiao's dogs. Bite whoever Ben Xiao tells you to bite. Do you understand?" Whoosh! Hearing this, Yu Xian and Han Luotian's faces suddenly stiffened. A murderous intent flashed in their eyes, and their hearts were filled with anger. They had never thought that this person would actually dare to treat them like dogs. Little did they know that they could only be dogs because Wang Kai thought that they could flatter him. Otherwise, they could only be corpses. Or even their corpses might not be left behind. Chapter 656. What? You don't want to? Humph. In today's world, I don't know how many literati and martial artists are crying and shouting to become this young master's dogs, but they don't even have the slightest chance. So, you must know how to be content and understand the meaning of luck. Wang Kai shrugged and snorted with a rather cold expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have gained 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. Content. Lucky. Such words also made Yu Xian and Han Luotian even more annoyed. Their hearts were full of shame and anger, but they didn't dare to speak out. They could only clench their teeth and endure their anger. They cupped their fists and said in unison, "We understand. No, it's not us, but you call yourself a dog. You understand. Come, do it again." Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled with disdain in his eyes. They actually dared to plot against him behind his back. It was a waste to let them live. Such unrepentant and reckless trash die. It was too easy for them. Whoosh! Hearing this, Yu Xian and Han Luotian looked at each other. Their eyes flashed with a fierce light. They lowered their heads and said in unison, "We understand." Clap, clap. In this way, Wang Kai clapped his hands in satisfaction. He nodded and smiled. Not bad, not bad. You know your place. Well, Ben Xiao wants to give you 2 dogs the first task. Quickly go and find a person called Wang Gai Jing for Ben Xiao. Discussing Dao with the goddess. TSK. If Ben Xiao can get such an opportunity, he won't need to stay in the outer sect in the future. It turned out that he also wanted to catch Wang Gai Jing. Yu Xian and Han Luotian suddenly understood. No wonder they didn't find this person in the outer sect before. Now that the goddess gave him enough conditions, he jumped out. Do you want to become a core disciple of the sky-reaching sect? Dream on. Yu Xian and Han Luotian sneered in their hearts, but on the surface, they cupped their fists respectfully. Upon seeing this, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. How could he not know that these 2 fellows were up to no good? He shrugged and said indifferently, "There is one more thing. Capture all the people who have something to do with Wang Gai Jing and bring them to Ben Xiao. Well, you have to be fast, and you can't tell anyone that you met Ben Xiao before you find Wang Gai Jing. Otherwise, your dog's life is not as valuable as a human's life. Whoosh. Hearing those words, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian's expression stiffened. They also did not expect that, even after becoming dogs, their lives would still be in danger. Immediately after, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian quickly left with terrified eyes. Wang Kai closed his eyes and muttered with a smile, "As long as Sun Guantian and his brother arrive at Ben Xiao's place, Ben Xiao will not care who they capture in the sky-reaching church." At the same time, outside the B class, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian's eyes were extremely gloomy. Even when they walked, they carried a murderous aura. Let's quickly find Wang Kai's tracks. When the time comes, we will directly go to the inner sect or core hall and send his tracks to a certain disciple. Yu Xian said with a cold smile. Han Luo Tian was also extremely supportive of this. He immediately nodded and said with a cold smile, "This is exactly what I want." However, before that, we have to bring Sun Guantian and his brother to Nyoja Tian and use them to temporarily stall for a while. That's right, this is a brilliant plan. Let's use Sun Guantian and his brother to stall for time. It will be enough for us to find Wang Kai's tracks. When the time comes, Yu Xian said with a cold smile, his face full of murderous intent. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, the two of them rushed to the A class. Sun Guantian and his brother had already entered the A class because of Wang Kai. However, all of this fell into Wang Kai's mind in the B classroom. With his spirit, he was able to clearly see and hear their words and expressions. If Ben Xiao personally comes out to capture Sun Guantian and his brother, the inner sect core hall and even the elder hall will come to investigate. They will certainly be suspicious. With the two of them, it will save Ben Xiao a lot of trouble. Wang Kai shrugged and said with a confident smile, if it weren't for the fact that he didn't want to fall out with the sky-piercing church for the time being, Wang Kai really didn't want to do this. Thousands of schemes were not as good as a straightforward battle. However, this was all he could do for the time being. Inside the A class, Sun Guantian and his brother had just rushed back from the C class. Through Wang Kai's power, they had snatched a lot of sky-piercing pearls. However, before they could see Wang Kai and use the sky-devouring technique to devour all the sky-piercing pearls, they received an order from Goddess Yasinyan. Wasn't the Wang Gai Jing they wanted to capture their young master, Wang Kai? Now, even if the owners of the sky-piercing pearls wouldn't come to ask for them back for the time being, it was only a matter of time. Once Wang Kai was caught, not to mention the sky-piercing pearls, even his life would be difficult to protect. Big brother, why don't we use the sky-devouring technique now to improve our cultivation and directly go to the inner gate test? Sun Guantian said, gritting his teeth. He didn't expect that Wang Kai would anger Goddess Xia Xinyan so soon after the competition. Goddess, the strongest expert of the sky-piercing church in the future, the most protected person of the sky-piercing church now. With such a status, once provoked, would there be any way to survive? Since Wang Kai hadn't appeared yet, it was clear that even he was afraid. No. Wang Kai treated us well, and if it wasn't for his assistance, we would have probably died in the outer court a long time ago. How would we be able to kill our enemies and obtain a Dao art? Sun Guantian shook his head and refused directly. Hearing this, Sun Guantian's eyes were full of helplessness. How could he not know the principle of gratitude? But now, if he was too honest, he would definitely be implicated and die. Are we going to wait for death? Don't forget, everyone in the outer gate knows that you and I are Wang Kai's followers. If the inner gate and core disciples come, we can last. Sun Guantian shook his head fiercely and sighed. However, Sun Guantian naturally understood what Sun Guantian said, but he still couldn't accept it. In his opinion, he must repay the kindness of others. If he directly ran away and ignored the life of his young master, he really couldn't do such a thing. Guantian, you don't need to say more. I made up my mind. However, for the revenge of the Sun family, you can't die. Now, We will perform the sky-devouring skill to help you reach the peak of the sky origin stage, or even higher. When the time comes, you will go to the inner gate trial ground. Sun Guantian said calmly. Whoosh! Hearing this, Sun Guantian was stunned. After a while, he came to himself and hurriedly shook his head and said, No, if we go together. There's no need to say anything more. I'm going to stay behind and look for the young master. At that time, if the young master and I don't die, the young master won't blame you. However, if we both die, you must avenge the young master and the Sun clan. Let's start now, Sun Guantian said in an indisputable tone. Chapter 657. Start what? Start to pack up and run for their lives? Humph, two pieces of trash. Do they think they can be lawless with Wang Kai as their leader? Their leader can't even protect himself now. It's reasonable for them to think of running away. After all, they are third-rate characters. Why would they care about kindness? Pada! As two voices filled with mockery sounded from outside, the door was forcefully pushed open. The two people who appeared were the two overlords of the outer sect, Yu Xian and Han Luotian. Hearing their mocking words, Sun Guantian's face was full of disdain. If it were them, there would be no need for discussion. They would probably run away with their tails between their legs, right? They spoke as if they were very righteous. It was really disgusting. On the other hand, Sun Guantian's eyes darkened when he heard that. His heart was filled with indescribable bitterness and self-mockery. He did not even have the courage to look down on Yu Xian and Han Luotian. Just now, wasn't he the one who suggested to temporarily give up on Wang Kai and run away? If Sun Guantian did not agree, he would have left the outer sect long ago. What do the two of you want? Don't forget that our young master Wang Kai is still alive. If he comes back, Sun Guantian squinted his eyes and sneered. Whoosh! Hearing that, Yu Xian and Han Luotian's faces stiffened. It would be a lie if they said they were not afraid. However, they were extremely furious. Bastard! They're just two stray dogs. Even if Wang Kai dares to come back, he is destined to die. Yu Xian berated angrily. Han Luotian was even more direct. He immediately raised his hand and pulled it back. Under the sweeping pressure, Sun Guantian and Han Luotian were immediately pulled over. Plahwa! Sun Guantian and Han Luotian vomited blood and lay on the ground. They looked up at Han Luotian with cold eyes. With their cultivation, they were naturally no match for Yu Xian and Han Luotian. Young master, you are finally back. Quickly kill these two bastards. Suddenly, Sun Guantian shouted sternly. His eyes looked outside the door, as if he had something important to do. Such a scene immediately caused Yu Xian and Han Luotian to turn pale with fright. They immediately turned around, only to find that Wang Kai was nowhere to be seen. There was no one. Guantian, the revenge for the Sun family. Heavenly Pearl, you must be completely devoured. Quickly, or we will all die. Suddenly, before Yu Immortal and Han Luotian could react, Sun Guantian shouted out loud and threw Sun Guandi towards the window. The Sun Guantian, the son of the son of the son of the heavens. At the same time, Sun Guantian swiftly stood up, raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth, moved his body, blocking Yu Xian and Han Luotian at the door. You overestimate yourself. You want to succeed with a mere child's trick? Yu Xian and Han Luotian sneered in disdain when they saw this. They did not even try to stop him. In their opinion, Sun Guantian would not be able to stop them. It would be an easy task to capture Sun Guantian. However, something that terrified Yu Xian and Han Luotian happened. Sun Guantian's body actually began to swell. Moreover, streams of heavenly energy raged and swept around his body. His momentum could be said to be extremely terrifying. You want to self-destruct your cultivation, Yu Xian exclaimed. He stared at Sun Guantian in disbelief. Although Han Luotian was also frightened, he did not show it. He flipped his palm and circulated the heavenly energy. He said coldly, You want to scare me with a mere trick? Arrogant. Try self-destructing if you have the guts. Buzz. As soon as his voice fell, Hun Luotan mustered up his courage and charged at Sun Guantian without much confidence. Then let's die together. Young master, avenge me. Guantian, avenge the Sun family. Buzz. Buzz. Rumble. In an instant, the entire B class trembled endlessly when Sun Guantian completely unleashed the power of the heavens. The frightening aura immediately frightened Hun Luo Tian to the point that his footsteps paused abruptly. Without any explanation, he turned his body and smashed through the window, flipping out. Yu Zetian did not hesitate in the slightest when he saw this. His body almost involuntarily did the same. At this point, they could not stop Sun Guantian from self-destructing his cultivation. As long as they touched him, it would definitely speed up the self-destruction. At that time, even if the two of them did not die, they would definitely be seriously injured. Bin Xiao hasn't allowed you to die yet. How can you choose to die? Listen to them obediently and follow them. Bin Xiao has a way to get out of danger. Buzz. Suddenly, a familiar voice resounded in Sun Guantian's mind. A wave of energy also merged into his body. In the blink of an eye, the surging heavenly power calmed down. He originally thought that he would definitely die this time. He never expected that the self-destruction could be stopped. Moreover, he had stopped it so easily. Little did he know that Wang Kai, who was already at the 5th level of the Heavenly King stage, would it not be easy for him to stop 2 heavenly generals? Yu Zetian and Han Luotian, who were at the peak of the heavenly generals, were unable to stop them, but that did not mean that Wang Kai, who was at the Heavenly King stage, could not. Young master, is that you? It's good that you're fine. After coming back to his senses, Sun Guantian, who had escaped death, immediately felt as if he had survived a calamity. He took a deep breath, and his back was covered in cold sweat. And just do as Bin Xiao says. There's nothing to worry about. Wang Kai's sound transmission rang out again. Immediately, Sun Guantian was filled with confidence and joy. However, the only regret was his younger brother, Sun Guandi. He could only hope that the young master would not blame him. Since the young master had saved him in such a timely manner, it proved that the previous matter could not be hidden from the young master's prying eyes. And in fact, that was exactly the case. Just now, Wang Kai did not choose to save him because of Sun Guandi's thoughts, which made him very dissatisfied. If it wasn't for Sun Guantian's loyalty, he wouldn't have cared about their lives at the end. Ungrateful people can't be left alive. Can't. He's actually fine. Ugh. Outside, Yu Zetian and Han Luo Tian stood in the air, looking down at the tiny room. For a moment, they were both stunned. Shouldn't it have exploded into pieces? Why wasn't there any movement at all? Could it be that we were played by him? The veins on Yu Zetian's forehead bulged as he gritted his teeth and said coldly. On the side, Han Luo Tian lightly shook his head when he heard this. He frowned and said, that shouldn't be the case. Just now, the degree of his self-destruction had already reached the point where it could not be stopped. Of course, if an expert above the Heavenly King were to save him, it would be possible. Who cares? Hurry up and go down to investigate, Yu Zetian said with a dark face. He immediately rushed down from the sky. However, halfway through he suddenly stopped. That was because Han Luo Tian had been standing in the air the entire time. He didn't even have the intention to take a look. Why aren't you going? Yu Zetian said coldly. Hearing this, Han Luo Tian immediately looked down on him and sneered. Who knows if he's suppressing it on purpose? If he suppresses it and self-destructs in a few breaths, wouldn't we be in trouble if we go down? Bastard, then why didn't you say so earlier? Yu Zetian immediately flew into a rage. If you want to die, I have no reason to stop you. Han Luo Tian spread out his hands and said indifferently. However, even though he said that, Yu Zetian could clearly see a trace of disappointment in Han Luo Tian's eyes. At this moment, Yu Zetian even had the heart to kill Han Luo Tian. Chapter 658. What are you guys waiting for? I have already come out. Tell me, where are you taking me? Just lead the way. Sun Guantian walked out of the room and raised his head to look at Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian in the sky. His face was filled with disdain and ridicule. Swoosh! Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian were so angry that their bodies trembled. Their eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. How could they endure being played like this? Damn it! If we don't hand him over to Nyoja Tian, I will definitely kill him. Yu Xian said coldly. Han Luo Tian gritted his teeth and sneered. It's okay if we don't kill him. If we hand him over to Nyoja Tian, he won't be able to live for long. That makes sense. As long as he doesn't help Nyoja Tian find Wang Kai, it's impossible for him to live. Let's take him over so that we can find Wang Kai, Yu Xian said with a gloomy look in his eyes. Swoosh! Then, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian led Sun Guantian to the B class. They arrived outside Wang Kai's room. Master, we have brought him here. Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian looked at each other and said in unison. Clatter! As soon as they finished speaking, the door opened automatically. Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian led Sun Guantian into the room. Clatter! However, as soon as they entered the room, the door suddenly closed. The sudden sound caused Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian to feel uneasy. Well, you two dogs have done a good job. Your mission has been completed. Wang Kai shrugged, lying on his back in the chair, and said with a rather playful smile. Swoosh! Hearing this, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian's faces stiffened. They looked at Wang Kai with uncertainty and said with a smile, Thank you for your compliment, Master. If there is nothing else, we will leave now. Leave? Where are you going? Humph, do you still want to live? Suddenly, Sun Guantian sneered. As he spoke, he walked to Wang Kai's side and bowed. He cupped his fist and said respectfully, Young Master. Hearing Wang Kai's voice and attitude, Sun Guantian was certain that the person in front of him must be Wang Kai. No wonder he sent a voice message and told him to follow Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian. It turned out that Wang Kai had already changed his appearance. Tian was in the outer disciples' yard. Young Master, you are Wang Kai. Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian turned pale with fright as they stared at Wang Kai in fear. In an instant, their bodies stiffened as if they had lost their souls. Bin Xiao has already said that your mission has been completed. The outside world only knows that Sun Guantian was taken away by you, but they don't know who you gave him to. As long as you die, even if Bin Xiao's identity is exposed in the end, it will be a long time later. Wang Kai shrugged and smiled casually. Shua! Hearing this, Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian fell to the ground in shock. Escape? That was impossible. Wang Kai was a cultivator above the heavenly king stage. Resist? Was there a chance? Quickly kill them. Yes, it's best to destroy the corpses and destroy the evidence. Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Hearing this, Sun Guantian nodded heavily and immediately walked in front of Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian. He took out a dagger and was about to pierce their throats. Bastard, even if I die, I can't die in the hands of trash like you. You. Despicable. Yu Xian and Han Luo Tian were about to resist and kidnap Sun Guantian. But as soon as they moved, they were suppressed by Wang Kai's gaze and could not move at all. They could only watch as the dagger pierced towards them. In the end, they were completely dead. Plop, plop. Looking at the two corpses on the ground and Wang Kai's unfathomable cultivation, Sun Guantian was a little absent-minded for a moment. Not only did he kill his enemy, but he also killed the two overlords of the outer sect. He had never thought of such a thing, nor did he dare to think about it. But now it had all come true. Thinking of this, Sun Guantian became more regretful and worried. If Wang Kai was not satisfied with what happened to Sun Guantian, wouldn't that mean, even if he really passed the inner disciple trial and became an inner disciple, so what? Wang Kai even dared to provoke the goddess. His cultivation was unfathomable. Even an inner disciple would not stand a chance against Wang Kai. Young Master, my brother. Sun Guantian was extremely worried. He clenched his teeth and knelt in front of Wang Kai. Don't worry. Bin Xiao won't blame him. Everyone has their own ambitions, but Bin Xiao will not help him. Don't mention it again. Wang Kai shrugged and said in a casual tone. Although it was reasonable for Sun Guantian to run away on his own in the nick of time, it was for the sake of his life. However, Wang Kai was quite disgusted by it. In Wang Kai's opinion, real brothers should share weal and woe together. They were not brothers if they went their separate ways in the face of danger. Sun Guantian was relieved after hearing this, but he also felt that it was a pity and he was extremely worried. If Sun Guantian did not do well in the inner disciples by then, he would not be able to help him. What should he do? Wouldn't he be trapped in a trap of his own making? Take their corpses. Young master, I want to devour their bodies. Whoosh! Just as Wang Kai was about to destroy the bodies of Yu Xian and Hun Luotian, Sun Guantian interrupted him. Devour their bodies. Can you devour corpses after transferring the sky devouring skill? Wang Kai asked in a daze. He was quite surprised too. After all, devouring corpses was enough to make one's scalp go numb. Yes, compared to devouring other energies, the power obtained is 10 times stronger. However, in the middle of every month, I will suffer from backlash. I might turn into a demon who does not recognize anyone and only knows how to kill. At that time, I hope that young master will be able to suppress me, Sun Guantian solemnly said. Swish! Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly. He roughly guessed his intentions. It was nothing more than wanting to help his foolish younger brother, Sun Guandi. What if I can't suppress it? Wang Kai shrugged and said with an indifferent expression. Even if he was his subordinate, he couldn't be a killing machine. Wang Kai didn't like killing people casually. Can't suppress it. Sun Guantian was startled when he heard this. However, when he thought about Sun Guantian's unstable situation in the inner sect, he could only grit his teeth and say, then kill me. Hee, you're still very confident in Bin Xiao's ability. That's right. As long as your cultivation doesn't exceed the Heavenly King stage when you go crazy, Bin Xiao can easily suppress you. Furthermore, it's easy to get rid of the probability of you going crazy. Who asked Bin Xiao to be so awesome? This young master is an omnipotent and peerless hero. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders and smiled with a rather proud expression. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 100,000 experience and 100 bragging points. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.